Well, you, Craig, and welcome back to the 99th rendition of Cooped Up Conversations with Aaron, Joey, Prokop, and me, Cooper. Joining us today, a very special guest, and also one of the first people in the three-peat club, Cappucci. Very, very special, but this man needs no introduction, yet we're going to give him one. Author of Looking Up.
Oh, you actually got it.
Oh, I have it. I have the hard
I have
copy.
it,
I'm
too.
starting to read it. I haven't read it yet. I'm not gonna lie.
I had a camera.
I haven't
to
read it
show
yet,
you, but it's
Cappucci. I've been
right
busy. But I will read it. And for the podcast's sake, I've read it. It's a great book. You need to read it. But
I haven't read it either.
you haven't read your own book?
I read it out of order, but I never read it.
See, I agree. I don't think is it this reading your own book. Does that feel like the same as listening to yourself speak? You think? Because I
Good.
don't like hearing myself speak, so I don't know if I'd want to read like myself.
Can you hear me?
Is that not working?
Are you here, Cappucci?
I can hear.
Okay. Did you hear Aaron's question, or did that cut out?
I can't hear Aaron. I nothing that Aaron has said or done do I hear.
Really?
No, you haven't.
You might
hear
have him low on your end. You might be able to turn up his volume if you like right click on his name. It might be a little volume bar.
User volume is all the way up.
Oh, okay.
Maybe Aaron's got you muted. That's weird.
No, I can hear Matt. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you too. That's so fucking weird.
I hear
Aaron,
nothing.
leave and come back.
Yeah, you just.
All right.
All right, that covers
What?
that.
Yeah, I know. Dude, it was a
Let's
prank.
get down
You
to
could hear
brass
the whole
tacks.
time.
We haven't used Discord in like 3 episodes in a row. It's weird again.
Who else can we vote off the island tonight?
Prokop's probably next, dude, if he wasn't recording. But
Luckily,
I'm just kidding, Prokop. Aaron, try to talk. See if Cappucci can hear you.
Hey, can you hear me, Matt?
You're good this time. That was weird.
That is super weird. Aaron, ask your question again. This is sloppy. We had a
It's
good.
too late. The flow is ruined. We'll get back to
Okay,
it
the
later.
flow's room. What he wanted to know was I'm not going to ask. So you were talking to us right before the podcast started. You just you got LASIK 2 years ago. It was your birthday gift for yourself. You left off before Prokop rudely interrupted you. It was like, we need to make this content. You can't just give us a story. You said that you didn't want to pay for the Uber back home.
Yeah, so I live like 0.7, 0.8 miles away from this place, LASIK Plus in Alexandria. And I thought to myself, why would I pay $24 for an Uber for 1 mile?
Plus now.
Despite having just dropped $4,000 on LASIK. So LASIK itself is actually, they're reshaping your cornea. So they burn the edges of it using a laser. It's no contact, takes about 15, 20 seconds per eye. And then, and your eyes have these numbing drops in, but they say be home within 15 minutes and try to fall asleep because otherwise the pain will hit like this. I don't think too much of it. And, I'm wearing these crazy glasses. I can kind of see, not really, because my eyes have just had laser shot into them. And I'm walking down the street like Mr. Magoo. And I have these big glasses on, not really able to see much of anything, wandering through traffic on these busy highways. And it got to the point where, obviously, the eye drops ran out. And now I'm essentially crying tears, not because I'm sad, not because of the pain, but because, it stings so much. It's like someone shooting hot pepper into your eye that it's tearing nonstop. And my glasses have now fogged up. So I'm drenched in like this sweat and these tears from obviously the pain of the eyes. Also, I can't see anything. Finally, I stumble back to my apartment and I just take some painkillers and stuff and wake up about 4 or 5 hours later. But it was miserable for a little bit. So moral of the story, if they tell you to get an Uber ride home, do it.
I was going to ask, do you think hindsight, do you think the $24 might have been worth it?
No, because it would have taken
No,
long
he
for the Uber to
says-
show up.
Has anybody seen the movie Prisoners?
I have not.
No. Oh,
I don't
never
watch
mind.
movies.
Doesn't matter.
But
Doesn't matter. Then.
That's the most absurd thing ever. The kid dude, you have like 18 jobs and you're not going to pay 24 bucks. See, that's worth it to me. A mile walk on a normal day, I agree. Like, that's not like, even if you had like,
Wait, why didn't you just
even if-
walk?
he did walk.
Oh, I thought you.
I walked, but-
drove.
No, I
if he
walked, but I
drove,
just
that's
had
a
crazy
crime.
LASIK.
Yeah.
I didn't drive for like 48 to 72 hours afterwards. By then I was fine. Like I could see everything. It was 2020. But yeah, highly recommend LASIK. If you haven't had it or you're considering it, definitely do it.
Dude, we're gonna start a GoFundMe for Joey because he's been. I wish they had colorblind LASIK. Imagine if they could like fix your colorblindness, Joe. That would be fucking dope. How much money would you pay to fix your colorblindness?
Oh, not a lot.
Really?
I feel like at this point, am I really missing out? Like, you guys
Yeah.
ever been floored by a color?
But you're just red and green, right?
Yeah, but it goes into pink and like brown, and it's all.
But those
yeah.
are vibrant colors, Cappucci. So like you know how like
Yeah.
like you first come into like a valley like in Vermont in the summer and you see all the green leaves and the mountains and how like vibrant that is on a blue sunny day, and Joey just sees gray.
That's not. I don't just see gray. I see brown. And
That's
Joey
worse,
green.
dude. I'd rather see gray.
Joey.
I
I
feel
have
like
the colorblind glasses though, and like I wasn't blown away.
Oh, okay. That's what
Because I
was
don't
gonna
think those
ask.
things are real, dude. I think those things are a scam. Who
I think-
tests
I
those?
think what we need to do is have Joey sing that Stevie Wonder song, "A Wonderful World," but with his own rendition. I see leaves around.
I
Be a
think
pop punk.
Gray
version.
grass too.
I think I would definitely fix my vision, like my nearsightedness, before I fix color. That'd be my take.
Oh yeah, that's kind
And
of.
I wouldn't probably go to a place called LASIK Plus now. I'd probably go to like
No, it was great. Dr. Neil
Doctor.
Willis is highly recommended. You know, LASIK is the most safe elective procedure in the world.
I definitely
LASIK?
want to get it, but they told me I had to wait till I was older to get it. I asked
LASIK
this-
What they want is for
Yeah, go ahead.
they want your prescription to kind of level off for 3 years because it makes no sense to do it and then just have it done again or get glasses
Yeah.
right
Did
after.
they do one eye or two eye for you?
Both eyes right away. You can
They
have
did
the
one eye
option
for
of,
my
of
mom,
waiting.
and she was like cured. She didn't even need to do the other one. I don't know how that works at all, but
I didn't know people actually got LASIK because it's
What?
not a thing in my world. It's just not a thing in my world. I've never heard somebody
My
get
uncle
it.
got it
None
too.
of my
My
family's
uncle
gotten it. I don't know if single family members gotten it.
I had really bad vision and I wore contacts forever and it
Yeah.
just would dry out my eyes to such an extent that it was miserable. But yeah, I got LASIK and it's been life changing.
Is it
Yeah,
like a
even in the morning.
on my list.
BBL for nerds?
That
Brazilian butt lift. Hey Aaron, how close is the mic to your mouth?
I put it a
Hear
little
you.
closer
Inside
just
his
because
mouth.
no one can hear.
Oh, okay, because it sounds. I'm just.
I was waiting for that to
Okay.
hear it because before
just
you,
wa-
like people weren't.
Okay,
He's
yeah, no, that's
eating
fine.
oysters in
I just
there?
wanted to tell you before we got too far in.
No,
But
I'm glad you did.
so Cappucci, the book just came out. What have you been on like a book tour? Did the publishing company make you go on like a tour, you said like a local tour, right? Is that what you ended up doing?
Yeah, I did a couple events down here in DC, Alexandria. They were all jam packed, which was nice. I was honestly shocked people showed up. And I'm doing some sort of thing, I think in Fairfax County, either this weekend or next week. I should probably check the date because I'm required to be there.
It was
And
today.
honestly, I missed a podcast yesterday, so I have that rescheduled for Thursday. And then, yeah, I'm going to, I did a thing on Fox Business about it. I'm going to, actually back to Plymouth on November 15th, November 16th. I'm doing one of the things at like one of the local elementary schools. And yeah, it'll be good to be back in Plymouth and see everyone. So if y'all are in Plymouth, feel free to swing by.
We will be back. Depending on what day you're there, we will be coming back from Amsterdam that day,
Oh.
either the 15th or 16th. So
I want to go to Amsterdam. I'm going to at the end of November. I'm going to Australia, and I am pumped.
dude, fuck it. For pleasure or for business or both.
Pleasure. I very rarely let myself take vacation. I shouldn't say that. I have a weird schedule in that I work, sometimes 50, 60 plus hours a week, and I will work for 50 days in a row, 60 days in a row, then I'll just disappear for a week. So I try to take a vacation every month to 2 months, and at least some travel just for a change of scenery. This is like my big yearly vacation where I'm taking a full 2 weeks off from every employer, not thinking about work, not doing anything. It'll be challenging for me because I love work. Like last December, I went down to Chile and I told myself no work, and then I wound up Skyping into BBC News from the desert, or doing DW News at a bar, or like doing Sky News Arabia outside Victoria's Secret because it was the only thing in the airport that had Wi-Fi. So, this time I'm actually going to take a break from work.
That's awesome, dude. And are you doing like a full Australian tour to like the 4 relevant cities there? Like what are you doing? You going out to the outback? What's your plan?
Yeah, so it's I'm going to be there alone for the first 4 or 5 days. Then I'm meeting my buddy Jack, he's also in TV. He works there and is roughly my age, and we're just going to kind of gallivant around the country for 7 or 8 days. We'll go to the Great Barrier Reef. I'm going to Alice Springs to an ancient meteor crater in the desert called the Henbury Meteor Crater. We're going to Sydney, Melbourne, a couple other places. So I'm pumped.
Dude,
Can't
that's
wait
awesome.
to get there, and I'm stressed about the idea of not working. I genuinely struggle with not working if I don't have anything to do. Like I went on a cruise back in February. That was great because I had no Wi-Fi and I couldn't work. But if I can work, I'm gonna work. I can't not work.
Dude, you're a special breed. I would not peg you as a cruise guy. Where was this cruise?
It was so I had never really taken like a cruise for adults, and it was Royal Caribbean. I'm sorry, not Royal Caribbean, Carnival, super cheap cruise, 275 per person. It was four of us, and we went for 6 days, 5 nights, everything included. The lodging obviously, and then the meals. And I gained a lot of weight on that. But yeah, we went to. Only spent 8 hours in the Dominican Republic, and then went to Turks and Caicos for 8 hours. We were mostly at sea, and this old aging ship. It was awesome. It was great.
I was gonna
wanna
say, you like a value, man. The all-you-can-eat buffets and shit, that must have been right up your alley.
I had alligator. I've never tried alligator. It was great.
Really?
Yeah, highly recommend. Alligator is great.
Yeah, it's like it's like people say it's like chicken, but I feel like it's tougher. It's weird. I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily describe it as. I would say it's like bland like chicken. Like how you cook it's gonna be like kind of more
Yeah.
what you get from it. But it's definitely it feels like it's a way more intimidating thing than it ends up being when you actually eat it.
I think I had fried gator when I was last down there, and it's like fried chicken.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. I've had a hamburger once made of horse in Iceland. I
What?
really want to try iguana. Yeah, it was honestly the best hamburger I've ever had.
I feel like hamburger wasn't it originally made of horse meat? I feel like I
No.
Where are you pulling that from?
I don't know. I feel like that's a thing, a grade school thing that maybe I'm pulling out of my ass.
See, I feel like horses have been that thing that like
Going to
normally
the
isn't
internet.
eaten. Like they were way more valuable to not be other than IKEA. I will say I have had horse meat. I don't think like knowingly, but now knowing that IKEA's meatballs were made with like 58% horse meat, um, it is pretty tasty. It's a lean meat. It's like venison,
Have
and they're
y'all been to
smarter.
Costco? Have y'all tried the Costco food court? That place deserves a Michelin star. They
See,
have everything. A slice of pizza. I mean, that's enough. They should serve it with like a stretcher. But my gosh, it is so insanely good, and the value just can't be beaten.
did you hear that, Kirkland? Here's the deal. We've been begging you for ads all fall. You just got a published author, a man who's been on BBC on our podcast, plugging Costco's food court. That was not planned. Please, Costco, make this a Kirkland podcast. We are big Costco guys, Matt. The chicken bake. Have you ever had the chicken bake?
I have not. Actually,
Dude.
no. I've had a couple bites of it.
Yeah, $3.99. You get a chicken. It's like basically a chicken bacon ranch. Get the fuck out of here, dude. Costco food court is where it's at. The CEO. I don't know if you've heard, but the CEO literally threatened like
I
the
remember
chief
this.
financial officer. If you ever raised the hot dog price, he'd fucking kill him or something like that. Insane.
I dedicated my book to Waffle House. If y'all have never been to Waffle House, like that's my church. Waffle House is my church. It's my place of worship. And Waffle House
Dedicated.
just slid into my DMs on Twitter the other day saying they're sending me some swag. So it's
I
about
was
time.
gonna ask, dude. You have an agent, right? Get that agent on
I
Waffle
actually
House.
don't.
You don't
I
have an
agent.
agent?
Good
No,
for
so I
you.
have one
Don't
kind
give
of-
him the money.
So yeah, agents take about 10% of one's pay per year, which I mean, in my case, I wouldn't be willing to part with at this point in my career. And down the road, if they were giving me like a national so I have one sort of lined up in the event I go national, and they're sort of we're kind of waiting and working on things behind the scenes. But for the time being, like I'm doing local TV, I'm not giving them 10%.
So, dude, you need to position yourself. Here's the deal. I don't know if I think you if anything, I don't know if like Waffle House was expecting to have a potential spokesman of your caliber. If you think of the average clientele of Waffle House, I don't know, man. I think if you maybe threw on like a Theo Vaughn accent, maybe wore a flannel, and then talked about how dope you think Waffle House is when you chase tornadoes, I only have a marketing degree from the UMass Lowell, but I'm just saying that's a great potential ad there, Waffle House.
That's my core demographic. Like Waffle House people are my people. I have friends who come from these fancy schmancy backgrounds and they want to eat at fancy schmancy restaurants. I am happiest if I am in, a sweatshirt, baseball hat at a Waffle House. Like that's my essence. I have to wear a suit and stuff for TV, but yeah, I live for Waffle House.
Sorry. Yeah, Waffle House is dope. But so have you said so being around
Are
people
you
who
good?
I have a
feel like I'm
I have a
losing you.
cough. I have a cough and glaucoma. Sorry, but being around the people that you said like are kind of like going to fancy. Have you developed any sort of like attraction to like better cooked food? Because I know you've always been like a You're a common man, dude. You're a 7-Eleven pizza kind of guy. Have you kind of become a little bit of a foodie now that you've had good food?
Not really. You know the worst part is like nowadays when I was in high school, I was really cheap because obviously I was in high school, so I didn't have much money. Nowadays, I can afford better food, and I choose not to because I like basic fried food. I like a basic sandwich, basic fried food. Once in a while, I'll pay $25 for steak, but really, if it's served at a gas station or if it comes out of a bag, I love it.
So
Man of the people.
on the road, there's plenty of like gas stations, kind of like it's like a big thing that's developing with like the food courts and stuff. What would you say your top tier gas station is when you
Ooh.
if you want to buy the food?
Definitely Sheets and Wawa. They're two very different things. I'd say Wawa has better like condiments and stuff and better spices and better sort of seasoning and quality overall. Sheets has a fryer, so they can put like fried chicken on your sandwich, or they can give you French fries or whatever. Wawa is trying to expand into that. Sheets has pretzel rolls. Wawa does not. Sheets also has little pizzas for $2.99. I mean, they're 800 calories each, but they're so good.
I
And you know what the worst part is? I have to be thin for TV. Like I have to be. I shouldn't say I have to be. Like I try to be. So I'm trying to stay like below 130, and it is killer because I am obsessed with food. So I have to run 4 miles, 5 miles every day. After this, I'm going back to go for a run. As it is, I put on like 2.5, 3 pounds when I was down in Florida because I ate garbage down there. But oh, I love
I
unhealthy
agree with
food.
that take, Matt. I think Sheets has better like I know you don't say this, but it has better like high food. And Wawa, you can get like a good sub, like a classic sub. I love a Wawa sub. Like Hoagie Fest, I have a field day.
Hoagie
Wait,
Fest.
where do you live? Where
My,
are you now?
no, I'm in Boston, but when I go to like I vacation New Jersey every summer, and there's a Wawa, so it's like my treat. It's like what I look forward to, my Wawa trips.
Come to DC. I'll take you as many Wawas as you want.
God, I love Wawa.
So you said that you said you said you have to stay skinny for TV, but then you corrected yourself and you say, well, you kind of do it. Do you feel like any sort of actual like have you ever kind of noticed behind the scenes like people being like, oh, you went on vacation, you get a few pounds or something like that? Is there that kind of culture in show business?
I think TV in general, yes. My local station, and I'm not saying this just because I work here. Like my local station, genuinely is run so differently from TV. Like the fact they hired me at 23, whereas no one else in the country under 30 could have a job like this. My boss really takes a different approach. We have people of all shapes, sizes, ethnicities there, all different ages, and it's like one big happy eclectic family. It reminds me a bit of Sturgis in that sense, which is very unusual for like a high-end TV market to take that approach. But I think it's the best approach. Like everyone wants to see someone on TV who they see a piece of themselves in. They want to see someone who looks like them, talks like them, acts like them. And I think by having, I don't want to say one of everybody, but by having a wide range of people who, we may not always look perfect. We may not always be dressed to the nines. One day I might show up a little tired. One day, whatever. It makes us more human. And I think that's what TV needs. And my boss does a really good job of kind of orchestrating and choreographing that.
That's the one thing with cable TV in general. I feel like that they just like really need to grasp is how choreographed and how fake everything on TV feels. Like I
Yeah.
feel like the rise in podcasts and stuff like that really does come from the need of people to like you said have somebody who's relatable and kind of feels like a real person. So that's kind of really good to hear that you're at a station that kind of is trying to foster that authenticity because like you said, that's like what really is going to make people want to watch. No one wants to watch like fake people that they don't relate to at all.
Absolutely. TV in general is straight off a teleprompter, and yet our station actually builds in time for just chit chat in the morning. It's especially prevalent in the morning show. We have it like 4:50, 5:50 every morning. Talkers, where 3, 4 of us, the anchors, weather, traffic, whatever, we'll just sit there and talk about a story. Just talk about something funny. I'll tell full stories from my week or weekend on air, and my weather hits are just me literally geeking out about whatever I want to talk about. Ordinarily at stations, you have so much micromanagement, but my manager is super hands off. He's like, we don't hire, people to fill boxes. We hire personalities and go do it. And it's such a breath of fresh air. I can only think of like 3 or 4 other news directors who take that approach. It's a rarity in TV. Plus, with my contract, initially what am I hearing?
That's Aaron breathing right into the
I'm
mic.
not. I'm literally not breathing. I'm not even making sound.
Aaron, I swear, if I muted you right now, I could still hear you breathing out the window with that volume.
I mean, I did tell Cooper I was sick and didn't want to do this, but it's fine.
Dude, at the end of the day,
Like,
dude,
it's
you're
fine.
an adult and you haven't been on the podcast in a fucking month. So here's the
And
deal.
I'm still
You
sick.
suck it up every once in a while. Like Cappucci says,
Just
you
mute it
come
when
in
you're not
tired-
talking.
You come in tired
But
some
watch this.
days.
Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. Make a sound every time I do that.
Yes, it does.
I have
Exactly.
no
It
idea
makes
what's
a
going
sound.
on.
It makes
All
a
right.
sound.
Maybe just lean back.
See, Cappucci, the thing is trying to argue with Aaron's a losing battle because he just won't give up. So
Trying to argue with anyone on the internet is a losing battle.
yeah. But Aaron is a child of the internet. I think Aaron is the internet. He's on the internet more than I think he's in the real life. So when the meta
I
comes
think-
out, he's gonna adapt very well.
Aaron's thoughts occur to him in like Reddit sound bites.
He formulates all of his thoughts in tweets. 140 characters.
I just go omega lol.
Oh man,
Wowzers.
Aaron speaks in tweets.
Aaron speaks in tweets.
It's funny how
Sometimes-
Cooper said that, and he
sometimes-
just spent all day talking about TikTok. And
Hey, dude,
targeting
here's the
people on
deal.
TikTok.
Here's the deal.
Sometimes
It's
if-
called growing a brand.
Sometimes if Aaron's had one too many, he speaks in wingdings.
I always speak in Comic Sans, and that's normally.
That's mad funny.
Cooper speaks in all caps, bold,
do.
italic, underlined.
He speaks in all caps, and then he'll be like, "Oh man, Aaron's the
Then-
worst to argue with." And meanwhile, I just scream for like 30 seconds.
Then Joey just speaks on special occasions.
Yeah. And
That'd
then
be rare.
Prokop-
You gotta keep it
Prokop's the same
special.
way. He just sits there and chuckles. He's been talking more that Aaron's been gone. I think Prokop just is intimidated by Aaron. I think is what it is.
I have a big
didn't-
presence.
No, when we especially when we have more people on, I need to shut up more.
You did.
Initially thought you were Aaron when I logged on. You look like a mature, groomed Aaron.
I'm pretty groomed right now.
Yeah, I
bro.
look like
Matt.
if what you want Aaron to look like.
Yeah. If
I
Aaron,
haven't seen you for like 4 years. Actually, no more than that, like 6 years.
you haven't seen Aaron in 6 years.
What? Not since freshman year, right?
I don't
That-
believe that.
Sounds about right, to be honest with you.
I don't think
I
I've
remember you
seen
gave us the
any
tour
y'all
of
since.
Harvard that time. I don't remember what year that was, but
Had to
Yeah,
have been
that was a-
freshman year.
yeah, that was either freshman or sophomore year for sure.
2015.
Yeah, fucking way. Too long, dude. That's why when we come back from Amsterdam, we look like zombies. We'll come and make sure we say hi. But dude, by the way, my dad just pulled in. He wonders why he's going deaf, man. He was fucking blasting goddamn radio. I heard the car coming from a mile away. Anyway, but yeah. So Cappucci, you were just out of Florida for the hurricane. The one thing I was wondering, because I didn't like watch too much of what caused Florida to flood. Like, was it just the strength of the storm where it hit? Like, what made this storm so devastating?
Yeah, so we had a two-pronged reason as to why Florida saw so much flooding. Obviously, freshwater flooding from rainfall and coastal flooding from the surge. Storm surge is a rise in water levels above ordinarily dry ground. You have onshore winds pushing water ashore. And so south of the storm center, you had winds onshore 110, 120 plus miles per hour that just shoved 15 feet of water against the coastline of Fort Myers Beach, San Carlos Island, the Naples area up towards Sanibel Island. And they essentially saw this wave of water come ashore. It wasn't just one wave, but just this constant rise of water levels that came to the height of a 2-floor building. The issue too, a lot of these places are only 4 or 5 feet above sea level, and if you have a 15-foot rise in water levels, suddenly you're inundating the entirety of Fort Myers Beach. I've been there before prior to the storm, and I've been there now, and virtually nothing is left untouched, which is pretty sad. When I was there, the biggest thing that always stays with me when I cover disaster is a very distinct smell of disaster. You smell it smells like the world's biggest chainsaw. You smell splintered wood in the air. You smell asbestos and insulation. You smell leaking gas, leaking fuels, rotting things in general. That's the only way I can describe it. Rotting food from refrigerators, but also rotting animal carcasses, birds that were left impacted by the storm. So, Fort Myers has a long way to go in terms of recovery. But then farther north along Interstate 75 in the direction of Port Charlotte and Port, gosh, I'm sorry, I forget the name of the town, over in the direction of Englewood and Rotunda, north of Port Charlotte, they saw a ton of freshwater flooding, up to 20 inches worth of rainfall. That I almost got stuck in the flooding too. I kind of had to outrun that. But yeah, a big time issue down there, and it'll be a while before that area comes back.
So one thing I was going to ask you, especially because Florida is such a booming market, they're building up a ton around like kind of the coastline. Is this something that they should expect to happen a lot more, especially kind of in the coming years with like the rising sea levels, things like that? Is this going to be more the new norm, or do you think that this was just kind of a freak incident that's going to happen once in a blue moon?
I'm always reluctant to use the phrase new norm. I think Florida in general has a pre-existing risk to tropical cyclones. It's September, it's peak hurricane season, and Florida's the most prone place, arguably, in this part of the world. And so it makes sense that inevitably someone's going to get hit, and once in a while they get hit by a major hurricane. Recurrence intervals for that part of the world, you might see a major hurricane impact every 30, 40, 50 years. However, we can say that stronger storms are becoming more likely to occur. We'll see more rapid intensification thanks to human-induced climate change, and rising seas are making it that much easier to obtain a higher-end storm surge. We'll get hurricanes regardless. Some will be Category 4, some will be Category 5s, even without climate change. Climate change sort of tips the scales to a more high-impact event, and we keep building in really bad areas. If our houses have stilts, we shouldn't be building there. So we're expanding the targets. We're not building in smart ways. There have been some changes in building codes, especially across like Lee County, Florida, after Hurricane Charlie, where people sort of build higher up. But it's frustrating to see that people would rather their chances again in some cases rather than retreat a bit from the coastline, build higher up. So I'm hoping people will use this as an opportunity to build in sustainable ways.
And I'm not a betting man, but do you think they're gonna, or do you think they're just gonna rebuild and hope it doesn't happen again?
I think that's society in general. We have very short attention spans. We don't think more than a couple years in advance. It's like the news cycle. No one remembers outside of Puerto Rico that Puerto Rico the entire island lost power last month. It was a devastating event for a lot of people, and people forget about that. People have forgotten that a Category 5 hit the United States back in 2018. People largely forget, other than in Houston, about Harvey. People forget about Irma, Maria, all the other biggies, Florence back in 2018. So folks have a very short attention span. As long as it didn't impact them, no one will change anything. But the U.S. in general is a very reactive society, and so I don't really have high hopes here, unfortunately. But I keep stalling because I see Cooper just ran away.
Yeah, his dad must have ran up on him and said, "I got to do something. I know you're doing a podcast and trying to grow your brand."
So
And
what
Ryan,
was
are you-
what would you say is
guest.
the worst disaster you've probably been to, like personally been to?
It really depends. This was a bad one given the enormity of scale. I've been to, because I always struggle to answer that. Hurricanes are one of those things where you can see it coming days in advance. We really didn't have a good forecast for Fort Myers until like 36 to 48 hours out, and things did escalate very quickly. But at least we can say in advance, in a good forecast, get out, evacuate, you have time. Tornadoes, on the other hand, we give you minutes worth of warning, sometimes not even. And someone's life can be just obliterated or turned upside down in a matter of 30 seconds. It comes and goes like this. And so there are so many different types of disasters that I'm reluctant to speak about just one. Floods. Floods are slow motion things, but they might cover an entire state or more. So that's a tough question to answer, but a good question. Welcome back,
Yeah,
Cooper.
wasn't there a flood recently that was like it wasn't in America. I think it was like
Pakistan, I'm
Pakistan or
pretty
something.
sure it's
Pakistan.
yeah. Like
Yeah, it
what
just
is it?
took
What
out
is
the
it, like
whole place.
40% of their country's flooded right now?
Something like that. It's been historic there. You've had some places see meters worth of rain in a single month. Part of the reason being the monsoon. You have air move inland from the Bay of Bengal and also the Arabian Sea that goes inland, and because of course it's warmer over the land, so that causes the air to heat up. It pulls in air from the ocean to replace it. You just get this kind of constant moist flow out of the south that culminates into downpours and thunderstorms. It's just nonstop. It's really bad over there, unfortunately.
And so it was just because it rained for like a month straight and they weren't kind of like they like it just it does that happen there like often? When was the last time something like that happened? Do you know?
And that pretty much happens every year, not to this extent. Some years you get more active monsoons, other years not so much. We get a monsoon here in the United States too, across the Southwest, Arizona, New Mexico, parts of Southern California, even Utah and Southwest Colorado. We get a monsoon there. Monsoon just means seasonal wind shift. And we get a bit of both Atlantic and Pacific moisture that moves into the desert Southwest between like early July and mid to late September. So we get a monsoon down there too, just not as bad as what happens over in the Indian subcontinent.
So not to jump back to where we were, but you mentioned how you guys kind of were accurately able to predict this storm and tell people to get out. Now that you went down there, did a lot of people actually evacuate, or did people kind of really think they could make it out and then, or not make it out, but make it through and then kind of were mistaken?
So I think two things happened. We forecast the storm to bring significant impacts, but it came ashore stronger and much farther south than we were forecasting, even 36 to 48 hours in advance. So the forecast didn't come together as well as it potentially could have. The other thing, too, a lot of people in that same area were impacted by Charlie, Category 4, low on Cat 4, in 2004, August 13th, 2004. And Charlie was an extremely small localized storm, only about an eye wall like 6 miles thick or 6 miles out from the center. And so, because it had much smaller footprint, people who were near the core of Charlie thought, hey, I was near the core of a Cat 4. I can do it again. Like I was fine last time. It'll be the same this time. Whereas in reality, this was a much bigger storm. So that core of extreme winds within Ian occupied much more real estate and subsequently pushed a lot more water ashore. All Cat 4s don't come equally. Size does matter when it comes to hurricanes, especially surge. Another thing, too, other than arguably poor calls from Lee County Emergency Management, it's also really tough to evacuate for some folks who might not have the money to do so, who might not have the mobility to do so. It costs a lot to evacuate between lodging, travel, getting from A to B, food, lost productivity from work. I mean, it can cost hundreds to thousands of dollars, and it's tough for a lot of people to do so. Grandma and grandpa, if their siblings or if their kids are up here in Boston, who's going to evacuate them? Who's going to go down and drive them? There are so many things that are impediments for people to evacuate, and I think a lot of the folks who didn't evacuate, unfortunately, were the ones who couldn't.
Yeah, I was gonna ask because obviously hurricane evacuations, things like that, aren't something that we have ever really encountered up here. So I was gonna ask, like, I've always wondered, do they have like resources set up, like not like FEMA tents, but like something like that for people that are kind of in a disadvantaged state where they don't have somewhere to go or they can't afford to? Are there like resources for people, or is that something that isn't really invested in?
There are, to an extent, they're not as well executed as I'd like, and oftentimes it's also an issue of confidence versus impact. In other words, if 2 days out I'm confident, but I know there could be a high impact, but I only have medium confidence, am I going to enact all these changes for what could wind up not coming to fruition? If I'm really confident 1 day out, do I have time to implement these things? So it's a matter of confidence versus impact. The other thing too, like consider Tampa. We were sure it was going to Tampa for a little while, so Tampa prepared big time. Then it swung farther south, and I think areas of the south were kind of caught off guard. I've been in hurricane shelters before during major hurricanes, and I can tell you they're tough environments. I wouldn't go there unless I absolutely had to. I wouldn't bring kids there. Not to make light of it, but imagine imagine going to a Walmart in the sketchy part of town. That's kind of what some of these shelters are like, because oftentimes you have people there who, might be poorer and maybe struggling in other aspects. You might have people who have suffered from addiction who don't have the means to get other places. So, like, I've been in hurricane shelters where there have been drug deals and there have been all sorts of things going on. And so, yeah, it's a really tricky thing. There will come a day in our lifetimes when New England gets absolutely screwed by a major high-end hurricane. Back in 1938, we had the hurricane of September 21st, came ashore at a high-end Cat 3, brought a 186 mile per hour wind gust to the Blue Hill Observatory just southwest of Boston. We had 700 people die in southern New England from this. We had people who floated from rooftops in Long Island all the way to the coast of Connecticut. And that storm felled 20 million board feet of timber. Like, it was insane. And people forget that can happen. It will happen again. I think we had a hurricane in 1944. Like, we've had bad hits, and we will again. Buzzards Bay is a ticking time bomb. There will come a day when we push a 20-foot wall of water ashore, and we're not ready.
Wow. So you really think something that severe is gonna hit, like?
I think under the right track, Buzzards Bay is the New Orleans of the North.
That's a kind of something I've never really kind of thought about, especially because I feel like it is kind of so naturally protected by like the fact that it is shallower and it has the vineyard, stuff like that. So I feel like we are kind of like, or that part of the state is very spoiled when it's come to like even how bad some storms can get compared to like the open part of
That's
the
the
Cape.
thing. That's the thing. Hurricanes don't like the open part. They like those inlets. They like the shallow areas. Because here's the thing. Let's say you're moving your friends out of an apartment and you rent a truck. Which is easier to push a dolly up if you have a ramp going up to the truck? A ramp like this or a ramp like this? That flatter, shallower one. So it's way easier for a hurricane to push all that shallow water ashore in the form of a high-end wave. The other thing, too, let's say the hurricane is pushing water ashore. If the seafloor is this deep, you get all that sort of energy distributed vertically throughout the column. If it's this weak, that energy, if it's this shallow, that energy is all sort of thrown into one big bulge of water that moves ashore. So I'm there will be a day when something really bad happens to southeastern Mass. The Cape will see power outages for an extended period of time, weeks, if not perhaps a month or more. Not ready. Definitely not ready. And God forbid Cape Cod had to evacuate. We see what happens with one summertime rush hour when everyone's going to the Cape for the weekend. Can you imagine if the actual population of Cape Cod and then some had to evacuate? We'd be screwed. Absolutely screwed.
I will say there's
Damn.
this cool map thing you can look up where it's like based on how water will fill water levels will raise over time. If it's like 100 meters, I think I get like beachfront property. So it's kind of a win loss win. I don't know.
See, Prokop's really progressive until it benefits him, and then he somehow becomes someone who he's like, well, to be real, the ice cap's melting, even though it would flood 90% of Rhode Island. I would have beachfront property.
I would see my neighbor's houses underwater next to mine.
That would be kind of a cool snorkeling experience, you know what I mean?
Aaron, as a resident wave expert, I'm surprised you haven't chimed in yet.
Aaron's not even at his computer, so.
Let's see. I'm still bitter that we bickered for years over something that I was so obviously right in, that 1,719-foot wave.
It's the semantic stuff. That's how it gets you.
That's what gets you. Always the
semantics.
semantics.
Now, so you can ask him.
Oh, speaking of
he's making fun of you for waves, Aaron. Waves.
Speaking of semantics, Cappucci,
are
we
you
want to
guys
ask
all
you a question.
coughing? Y'all need to.
We are sick.
Smoking.
I told you today. We all are sick. There's something like even Brooklyn, who I haven't seen in a week, sick. My parents have been sick. Like, everybody's been sick.
What are we talking about?
I'm worried about y'all.
I heard my name was being called out.
Yeah, we're making fun of you for waves.
Oh, the wave? I'll never forget that. And I'll take my L now, Matt, if you want me to officially say it on the record.
Thank you.
I'll take my L.
It might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, but I try to get the W most of the time.
You got it.
He's got a
I
lot
gave
of
you one L
long-term
once,
W.
though, and I will never let that one down.
Can
What
you
was
guys
that?
explain this story?
It was really no, quick man. It's really minor, so don't act like it was a big one. But you thought the power plant in Bourne was nuclear.
No,
And
I don't remember.
that was Cooper. That was the other Cooper
are you
who thought
sure?
that it was,
No,
yeah,
God damn it. Sorry,
who
Matt.
thought
No
that was
else. You've
who
never
thought
taken an
that
L.
was a who thought that was a nuclear power plant at the end of the canal with like no security and stuff like that.
To be
And I'm
fair,
like,
a lot of
That's my
people on
fault.
Cape think that too.
Well,
Didn't they
remember
protest
that.
it at one point?
well, their brains are mush from being around Otis and all the runoff and stuff into the water. But
Did y'all hear about
Smoking.
Colonia High School in New Jersey?
No.
So
Is it
you
one of those
talk about
wastewater schools?
it's from what I've read so far, it's pretty scary. Like 100 or more people have got this really bizarre brain cancer or very rare cancers, and it reminds me a bit of sort of some of the things we've heard about Otis, but also you remember Love Canal back in near Niagara, New York. A lot of those super PAC sites. Colonia seems to be one of. They say they have no record of how the land was used prior to like 1950,
oh, that's
and
good.
it appears they pulled in soil from this toxic dump.
Oh,
And yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, that sort of stuff around like that, Otis, that all fascinates me.
well, yeah, because
Driving around that
like
part of New Jersey, you feel sick.
that whole state's honestly
Yeah.
fucking something else.
A lot of
But
waste in that area. A lot
yeah,
of
but dude,
trash.
like around Otis, I'm pretty sure like in like Mashpee and like Sandwich around it, it's like cancer rates are like
Wait, why? I never knew
'cause they
this.
probably just don't keep the
Gets
water.
in the water.
Yeah,
But what's in Otis?
it's a military base. Who knows what they're doing there?
Okay, I just didn't know if it was like.
There's also been people
thought it
there
was just like
forever, like way too long. Just probably dumping shit.
Yeah, because you got to think before the whatever thing protects the environment. EPA. EPA. Before the EPA, dude, they were probably just like dumping shit in the woods, pouring stuff in the creeks.
They
that's
dumped
The Cape Salt
radio.
sand, bro. That probably just fucking went right into the watershed right away.
Dude, they tossed radioactive waste off of ships like post 1945, like the war ending. They're just like, let's get rid of this toxic waste.
Ah,
Yeah,
A
throw it
couple
over
of
the.
U-boats
Throwing it
under there,
in the
too.
ocean. It's never a bad idea.
It's like the car batteries meme, but like to another level.
Why put it somewhere when you can just dump it in the water?
It goes away.
Anyways,
It's in the
speaking of
water.
the EPA, everybody always talks about the negatives of climate change, Cappucci. Everything going wrong with the climate, the world's ending, yada, yada, yada. As I would say, especially for this podcast and our listeners, an expert on the weather, the climate, what's something positive that's been happening in the world in like weather phenomenons, climate like kind of changes? What do you think something positive is happening?
I think in general, it drives me nuts when people make climate change out to be all doom and gloom. There's no bad weather per se. I mean, obviously, like a big hurricane's bad weather, but people will look at. Let's consider, for example, 110 degrees. That's normal in Phoenix. That's not normal in Seattle. And the same thing in Phoenix, which is what we call Tuesday, could have hundreds or thousands dead in a place like Seattle if they saw the same weather. So to me, the way climate change needs to be communicated isn't that the weather is just going to get bad. I think folks are sick of that. I just try to communicate it as the fact that the conditions are outpacing our infrastructure's ability to evolve. Like conditions are changing faster than we can sort of build to accommodate them. As for who will be winners of climate change, it's tough because if the climate's changing pretty much everywhere, infrastructure wise, it's pouring out. Infrastructure wise, it's going to be tough for folks. So, I mean, there will be winners. Like Russia might see more farmland that's arable. Same thing in Canada. Like they might have more farmland farther north. We might get cooler species farther north too. Other species will retreat. So, yeah, I mean, there will be some winners. There will be better shipping across the North Pole if the channels continue to open up over the wintertime, or rather over the summertime. So some net positives, but mostly
Is
negatives.
anything good happening on the like that? That was more my question. Like, like, is something good happening on the planet? Like a good climate change, like somewhere in a like where they're seeing somewhere bounce back, something like that. That's I might have worded that terribly. I'm trying to think of like because you always the doom and gloom part. I agree. I think everybody's so sick of, and I feel like that's the only stories we are like, oh, the fucking there's no water in the Southwest. Like that's something we hear about climate change, but is there somewhere like experiencing anything good? Like good, like animals, not animals bouncing back. Like I don't know. It's a terrible question, probably Cappucci. I'm sorry for asking it, but what else did I want to ask? Anyone else have a question?
I had a question, but
Oh,
it's
wait.
kind of closer to the doom and gloom, so I don't want to ask
Oh,
it anymore.
no, I kind of wanted to ask doom and gloom too. After I just wanted. People say I'm too negative, Capucci. All right, I'm not saying who.
Yeah,
Everyone
you
says
would
I'm
always
too
struck me
negative,
as
so I wanted to
you
be
would always struck me
positive.
as a ball of sunshine, Cooper.
Always,
I,
I feel like I'm a
I heard
realist.
I heard you were going to be a spokesman for Hallmark. I mean, you're that warm and fuzzy.
All right, so here's the deal. Back to more on brand. Bad
Remember
stuff
that
that's
time you
happening.
punched me in the face?
I punched you in the face again. What people are gonna take that because you have a book out calling yourself a nerd. You're like positioning yourself now publicly to make it. You were an instigator in the situation as well. It was instigated. Did I react positive? Would I punch you in the face now? No.
From what I recall,
you were flicking people. You were instigating.
No, I wasn't. So that's not the case at all. So Prokop, you don't know the
I
story.
think you
What
made
had
fun of a
happened-
woman, but I didn't want to say it.
Cooper discovered that I hated it when people flicked my head. I'm very sensitive about my head. So he'd sit behind me in the bus. He'd flick my head every like 5 or 10 minutes. He did this for days. So finally one day I was ready.
I was very
turned
mature.
around and I grabbed his arm like as he was flicking me. And I went like this. Cooper, why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? I let his arms go. And then he just pulled back and wham.
It was self-defense.
Uh-huh.
I think in Massachusetts it might not be self-defense, but if you go somewhere to like Texas or Florida, I think I would win in court. But again, I believe I flicked you for a purpose. I at least in my head think it was. I don't know if you were saying something diminishing someone. I don't know what it was, but Cappucci wasn't the saint. I don't want him to be painted as a saint for all these old ladies, dude. He was mean, dude, too. He could be mean. Not as I did flick people
Name
a lot,
one
though.
time I've been mean.
Ooh. I don't know if you really want me to think. There's definitely something.
Other than
Cappucci,
the time I tricked Aaron and Chris into thinking they were going to jail.
That one
That's
was
pretty
good.
funny, though.
There was something else. I will think of something, dude. Don't you fucking worry. That's gonna be my task for the next fucking. I'm gonna
Coop
start
tried to
journaling,
paint
dude.
me out as a bad guy when I
Oh
had my
God,
friend
here's the
on.
deal. Here's the deal.
He was like,
You're
"Are you a bully?"
I'm not a bully. I would say
Cooper used to be
when
a
I was
bit of a bully.
13,
Oh,
13, not potentially. I didn't learn empathy until college. What do you want me to do? I'm trying to be better. I haven't bullied anybody in years. I don't even think I would see. Would you go home and consider yourself like, oh, like I'm scared to go to school tomorrow because of Cooper? I don't think ever.
No, I wouldn't
There's
say
a,
that.
there's a little bit of a
Capucci,
pause.
you always defended yourself though. See, that's the thing. You kind of like I feel like you got the bit, and that's the problem. I don't get some people don't get I'm doing a bit. Most of it's a bit. It's always been bits.
Cooper, you found out what bits were like a year ago, and now you just.
But that's
he's-
what I've always been doing. See, here's the deal.
It's not how
I'm
it
a
works.
comedian.
It's
I've
not how
always
it
been a
works.
comedian. I was trying to perfect my craft. It went from immature flicking to now making fun of English people on TikTok. It's called
so
progression as a person. I'm sorry I wasn't perfect at 13.
What you're doing now is just that immature flicking, but a metaphorical flicking of
I'm
sorts.
not immature flicking
so
anybody.
really, we've gone full circle here.
See, that's the problem, dude. It's I'm fighting the character on a daily basis. It's not easy to contain the character. At least I'm not like some Jeffrey Dahmer serial killer. My character is I instigate. Sorry. It's if you don't see, here's the deal. You need characters like me. Think about it. If you don't have a character like me, dude, you're just going to work 9 to 5. You're always. And the thing is too is I feel like once people get to know me, I'm worse. I'm definitely. It's more of like, but like outwardly, I'm a very shy, anxious person. If you met me now, you wouldn't have ever thought I would flick Cappucci in the air.
Cooper, I'm reading his first chapter right now, and you're mentioned at least 5 times.
That's great.
I'm not even joking.
I'm sure I'm in some manifestos, dude. Somebody's, but
He actually has it as his backstory.
My 13th reason why.
Dude, oh.
Oh.
Reading it right now, I swear to God.
Can you read it out loud for us?
Aaron was reasons 1 through 12.
Yeah.
All that
See, that's
after
the thing. You
Cooper-
can't just
Wait,
put you
wait,
you
wait,
can't
wait,
just paint me
wait,
as the
wait,
villain.
Matt. All
We were-
that after flicking Cooper, and then I apparently am worse.
Dude, here's the deal. If
I think
by the
I
way,
just
I
didn't
really
even
I
do
really
anything,
like
honestly.
I like the font of your book, but anyway, here's the
Thanks.
deal.
It's Times New Roman, I think.
But it's bolder. It looks bolder. At least one of the pages I opened to.
There's
it was
actually a mistake on the cover of my book. There's like a huge paint splotch. I don't know what happened.
There are
It's
many
pubic.
mistakes in
It's
the
a
book.
pubic school.
Yeah, it's
No,
a
no,
pubic
I'm
school.
talking
But here's
about-
the deal, Aaron.
No.
We're not deflecting, Joe. If you go back to it, it wasn't just me. We were all assholes. You can't
Wasn't
we
an
are
asshole at
different
all.
level. Yeah?
I was pretty good.
Yeah,
at
you
that.
want to Aaron, here's the deal. Do you
I love the yelling. It's so
Do
easy.
you want me to dox
He
you
call-
now, dude, about shit you did in high school? Don't you get me started. No, that's what I'm saying. All of us almost got kicked out of school the last 2 weeks. Who was the asshole? Just me? Yeah, right.
I
Be
thought.
fucking real.
I thought he was talking about me. Like I don't. Think
Yeah, Aaron, I was
mean
talking
to
about
Matt.
you.
No, I'm talking. You're so. I thought I was
What
talking
did
about Matt.
What did you
But-
almost get booted out for?
Let's not
You
talk
guys
about
almost
it.
got
Oh,
kicked.
yeah. First off, yeah, Aaron. I didn't even punch I punched him in the fucking forehead. I wasn't trying to do him anything damage.
Cooper, you got. I just was asking if I did anything to Matt specifically because that's
I
what
don't
the topic was.
I'm sure
I
you
think
did
I was
something.
grand to Matt. We watched movies together.
Aaron,
Wait,
you
I
were
hung
grand.
out with Matt all the time too when we
I just
went
have to hear
bowling.
it from the source.
Cooper,
Now
you
I'm
didn't
all,
come to
now
his
I'm all,
pool
now I'm all
party, so
sensitive. Now I'm all sensitive.
It took y'all a while, about 3 years, to fully warm up to me, but then we were good.
I was always warmed up to you. See, that's the thing. People don't think I appreciate their cat. I appreciate Cappucci. I would classify you as an absolute character. You couldn't write a movie character to sum you up. You just can't. You're just an absolute. You're a unique character, and I've always appreciated that. That's the thing. I always was warmed up to you. We just were. I just don't think we were. If anything, it was probably only almost a shield. We like knew you had hope, and we're like, dude, we're state school people, and Aaron's like a private state school, basically Suffolk. Everybody got in there.
I'm not a fancy schmancy school person. I'm a Waffle House person, but I appreciate
Oh yeah,
that.
you're not a fancy schmancy school person.
I hated my time there. I went there so I could get the piece of paper, and I hated it there.
I was gonna say you definitely. I feel like you did. Did you say? Would you say you met like some people that you like formed very good bonds there, or do you just like do not have a really good memory of like really anybody there?
3 or 4 friends of mine, and yeah, a number of acquaintances. Honestly, I feel like I'm living my college years now because while I was in school, I was so bogged down. Like, A, I was working 40 hours a week, and B, I was taking 7 classes per semester. C, I was probably 25 pounds heavier. I had horrible acne. I didn't like myself. I didn't even want people to see me. Never mind, whatever.
Uh-huh.
And that plus, I felt like the campus was very woke to an extent where it was almost difficult for folks to drop the facade. So no, I didn't have a good time there, and I didn't think the teaching quality was great. There were a couple classes where it was decent, but overall, I treated it like a 4-year long tunnel. And I think that kind of shines through in the book where I didn't like it. I didn't have fun. I wasn't there to have fun. I wasn't there to like it. I was there to get a piece of paper that could help me make more money in the future. And that's as scummy as that sounds. That's why I went there.
Not, dude. To be real, that's not scummy. I feel like the whole atmosphere this is just my. I'm generalizing to the max here, and we made like a bit about it before, but like Cambridge is like the people that walk around acting like they want like care about the problems, but like don't realize that they like aren't involved with it at all. Like you're not. It's like such a bubble where I feel like everyone just kisses their own ass, bro. Like the conversations you hear walking around, dude. I'm just like, this is fucking brutal, dude. You guys never turn it off? Like it just seems like you have to like build yourself up to such a degree to like fit in there. Like, and that's just me observing as an
Yep.
outsider. It just feels so fake. It feels like a place that it's not authentic. Like no one there feels legit.
I found that, and that's why I didn't like it there. And I'm sure there were some good moments and there were some good memories, not a ton of them. I think the issues were twofold. Number one, I didn't like myself at that point. I was not very comfortable with myself, and ultimately I was pretty. I wouldn't say antisocial is the right word, but I was very shy. Like you'd never see me go up to a big group of people. I'd never go to a party or anything like that. But then again, that's never really been me. And so yeah, I was rather shy. I never really put myself out there much in college. But also too, it just seemed like there were so many disgenuine people where everybody was trying to maintain a facade of perfection that and folks would be tiptoeing so much to maintain perfect political correctness to a fault that I just felt like everybody was a glorified actor there. And I remember there's kind of a scene in the book where it's my last day there, and I skipped graduation. My final class ends at like 3, and by 3:04 an Uber pulls up, and I get in, and I turn around once, and I'm like, never again, and I drive away. Harvard did a lot for me. There were a lot of really good people there, and there were some great connections I made. Ultimately, it's a chapter of my life that I've closed the door on, and I'm sort of happy with that. I got the piece of paper. That's all I need.
That's crazy. Would you say like the resources there were kind of like unmatched? Would you say like it felt like like you said, you used it as a tool to like more money? Do you feel like it helped you kind of grow it all as a person, just like access to any sort of resources that you wouldn't have gotten somewhere else?
I mean, I got to when you go to Harvard, you get kind of a golden ticket to do whatever you want. What I mean by that is you can do anything. You can't do everything. So I use my golden ticket to travel, whether that be storm chasing, traveling on my own, study abroad, stuff like that. I did that. I also cobbled together my own curriculum, which it helped. And if nothing else, it set me apart. The name brand aspect of it means that if I say I went to whatever school, people may not know that, but if I say Harvard, immediately there's a reputation of, oh, like you're XYZ that precedes you, and it credibility in a way that a lot of other schools don't. I don't think I could have broken into the DC TV market at 23 with any sort of generic degree. I think the fact that I had that sort of gravitas, plus some prior, and plus I had no previous TV experience, but I think that the fact that I had that Harvard seal and could sort of say I made my own major there between Harvard and MIT, I think that's what got me the job. And that's what I was betting on, was that it would open doors. I didn't have fun there. Atmosphere needs some work. I think Harvard spends so much time choosing stereotypically smart people that they forget to choose passionate people. And Lord knows I'm passionate about what I do. And some.
That is certainly true. But so would you say that like at MIT, did you like the professors there better than Harvard? Which one did you feel like was a more academically fulfilling? Like if you had to choose.
I took more specialized classes at MIT than I did at Harvard. I felt that smaller class size at MIT, plus just the genuine thirst for knowledge, I loved it at MIT. Harvard, I felt like there was a higher standard deviation. You had some professors who might be tenured and could absolutely suck as teachers, but they had great, impressive research, and so they'd stay in their positions. I felt like overall I had much better teachers in high school. I think high school spoiled all of us because we had gifted teachers. There's a difference between being a good teacher and being a good professor, because ultimately I want a good teacher. I want someone who can convey knowledge and communicate it and is there to help me learn. Professors, some do that. Others prioritize research, getting their names on whatever, and less about the teaching. And yeah, that's their prerogative. But I felt like that was a big issue at Harvard. And not to sound ungrateful, like Harvard gave me a lot of opportunities, and I'm very grateful for that. But there are some improvements that need to be made, and I think there are some big cultural shifts that need to be made. I think some of them are common on all college campuses. Let's be honest. College campuses are supposed to be a place where you can be open with your ideas, and yet college campuses are, in America especially, the place where you can be open as long as you have the same correct ideas as everyone else. I think they're so big about let's have an open mind, and yet you can only have an open mind if it's the correct, societally acceptable opinion to have on every issue. And I'm not talking on any one issue, but that almost made it, I think that further entrenched the whole everybody has a facade thing, because everybody had to play as if they had the same opinions about everything. And only once you really got to know someone and break through the barriers would you be like, oh, like you're chill. You're not actually faking it too. Like, I mean, you are faking it too. Like we're chill.
Yeah, one thing I will say too, and just as like a different experience from college, like people, because to me it always kind of blew my mind where people were like, "Oh, like college is super." Like at least for us at Lowell, Joe, I don't know if you could say the same. I don't necessarily feel like I felt that as much. I feel like
No, definitely not. I
no
mean,
one
you
really
did feel
bothered
it
each other with
somewhere.
ideas on campus. Like there were
I
people
was
who were
engineering, so that's like a complete different. No one talked about ideas about
and I was
anything.
business, so I mean, I definitely didn't have the most open-minded
I
people.
wa-
But
I
like,
was South Campus, so I had
but like
some.
even bro, like people
Yeah,
like
you might have a
you
pro
just
cup.
kind of at the end of the day just say what you think. Like I don't know, I would say UMass Lowell wasn't necessarily a place that fostered like an environment for like ideas and shit. Like that is something I feel like Harvard, like you said, like it feels like it was very performative. I feel like it's also because like the stakes at like that school, like everybody has such a prestige. They had to put that on for like for a lot of people probably their whole life to like get to that point. Like who like it just feels like at least at like Lowell, one thing I would say about college is a lot of people kind of just weren't up your ass about stuff, which was good because it kind of like allowed you to grow naturally. It wasn't forced down our throats, kind of like it feels like it was to you. I don't know, man. That would stress me out, like having to be around people like that. I just couldn't do it because it's like you said, like everyone's performing. It's like that's just so weird, man. And you were saying like the one thing that I like I kind of really like about what you were talking about, and I'm sure it's great in the book, is how you're like holding Harvard to that standard. Because I feel like if you're gonna put the prestige behind its name, or like any big institution like that, if you're gonna put the prestige behind its name, like you should be also be open to making it better. It shouldn't just be like rest on
Yeah.
its accolades. So it's great to hear someone who leaves a school like that and like kind of does have an experience like this wasn't what I like necessarily thought it would be.
And Harvard has good administrators and bad administrators, but like let's be honest. A lot of the people who go to Harvard, most of them, are going to be highly successful regardless of whether or not they go to Harvard. It's not
Yeah, oh,
just the
100%.
institution. And I think it's somewhat easier for these higher level institutions to coast when they're hand choosing what they perceive to be the best or the most likely to be high achieving. I'd like to think I'd be sort of at the forefront of the meteorological enterprise, regardless of where I went. I'd be making a name for myself.
Yes, sir,
But
dude.
and so I almost don't want people to associate me with Harvard because, like, I don't know. But I feel like that's sort of the case where there's not much of an incentive for an institution to change culturally if they're perceived to be churning out the best, even though they already handpicked the best. They just have to do sort of, go.
Yeah, especially Harvard, man. I'm not saying you didn't like learn anything there, but like like you said, you strike me as someone that like even if you didn't go to like I know you need a degree and stuff to be but like personality wise, man, like even if you wanted to be like a oh, like I'm just like an amateur storm chaser, like yet like you have always portrayed such like a really good knowledge of stuff, but also being very relatable to people who don't understand stuff. Like everybody who listens to the episodes you were on previous to like this were all said that. They were like, it's crazy how well you convey such a high knowledge of like you were destined to be whatever. You were like, dude, when did you like if people didn't listen to the first few, when did you really know that you wanted to be like a meteorologist?
I was like 4 or 5 years old. Like it's always been a thing. And you know what's funny? I've had a bucket list, and I don't want this to sound pretentious, but I've had a bucket list of sort of like career life goals, and every single one of them has come true, like in weird scenarios, like weird down the wire things. For example, I wanted to get a TV job in a top 10 TV market by the time I turned 24, which hasn't really been done before in sort of the modern era. And somehow it wound up happening with like month left, or I wanted to publish a book by 25 and I made it with 11 days left. Like all these random things have somehow come true. And it seems like my bucket list, like, I don't know, there must be divine intervention or something going on because it's sort of like help me check all these boxes off. Now I feel like I'm getting a little greedy with what I put on that bucket list, but that bucket list, like so far,
Dude, you're
I've had it on a piece of paper since 6th grade and it's working. Knock on
You're
wood.
Goal
you're
setting is important.
you're kind of like what those strict routine people on social media are, except you're just not a douchebag about it. Like you just literally are just like it's not fake with you. Like that doesn't strike like it because it seems like you kind of it just makes it happen, dude. You like I don't know. That's mad funny because then people go on social media like I get up at like you just sleep 5 hours a night. You're just not like a freak in a bad way, dude. You're just a fucking freak. You just kind of like have that gear that people always try to get. I wish I had that gear. I tried to, but
I think to myself, like there are sort of two rules that I've carried with me so far, and that I'll always hopefully maintain in my career. Number one, I plan to never do coffee. I found that if I'm getting to the point where I need something to wake me up, or if I need something to sort of make me look forward to starting the day, I need to make an adjustment to my day, and so I'll wake up at 1:30 in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning for the morning news, and I'm excited to go there. And number two, I will stay in a job so long as I'm passionate about it, because what has sort of made me able to do what I do is the passion, not the knowledge, not the expertise, but the passion. That's why people watch. And if I can't deliver that passion for anything I'm doing, I won't do it anymore. I'm not going to retire when I get old. I'm going to retire the day that I stop going to work excited to go to work, or the day that I stop hopping in front of the camera excited to share something with people. Because it's like Tom Brady, for example. Some of us think that he should have just quit while he was ahead when he was number one, but he's still passionate about it. But regardless, I plan to stick around only as long as I'm still passionate, because that passion is what allows someone to sort of be the best at what they're doing. And if that goes, then I'll go. I'll find whatever's next.
outside of weather, do you have a passion that you think like when I do retire, like are you gonna open a Waffle House franchise? Like what is your passion outside of weather?
Honestly, teaching. I love being in the classroom, and I do a lot of classroom work. I'm working on a children's book right now. We have a couple proposals. One's with a company that's going to do a middle school one, and we'll do a high school one as well. But I love teaching, and I love children. I love old people too. But anything I can do to teach will be sort of where I capstone my career at the end of the day. I never plan to fully retire. I plan to just die on the job someday. I might be 112 years old in a classroom somewhere, but I teachers have given me everything in life, and I'd love to be a teacher. I don't consider myself like a media personality or a TV meteorologist or whatever, even though I have a big platform. I approach it like I'm a teacher who happens to make an appearance on TV, happens to be in the radio, happens to be in the newspaper, happens to be an app. Like I'm just a science teacher who happens to do all these other things as part of expanding my classroom.
So you went over to like China and did speaking events for like thousands and thousands of like students. Is that something you've ever planned? Like, don't disclose it if you've like it's something that you don't want to. You can't. But have you ever thought about doing something like that in the United States, like or like Europe, anywhere else, or is that just something that like you had an opportunity like to go to China and that's why?
I would love to. I think sort of my cultural approach would have to be very different. In China, my speech is called "You're More Than Just a Test Score," and it's about going in there because China, you have 26 million graduating seniors every year, and they're all competing for these elite top tier schools. And to do so, I mean, colleges can't take essays from everybody, so they just take one test called Gaokao. It's about 3 days, and that's the sole determinant of where these kids go to school in the future and sort of how their life shakes out or shakes up. And there's so much pressure on them to succeed and to get into a good school that you have suicide rates through the roof, especially because most siblings, at least, or most children until recently only had, themselves. They were only children. And it just, my message would be almost contrary to what they'd expect. They thought they were going to get a course on, or a speech on study, 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 like it's all about the test. And I went in there as a Harvard grad, and I was like, hey, there's more to life than school. There's more to life than a good job or whatever. It's about passion. But I look at so many of my friends who went to Harvard,
Can I
and
ask you?
they
Oh, sorry.
they have these crazy high paying jobs. I'm like, great, you make 200, 300, 400, whatever. If you're working 80 hours a week, something boring or meaningless, or something where you won't have a legacy, what's the point? Like, congrats, you can get a beach house. You'll never have time to go there, or it won't have any meaning. And so I'm trying to sort of emphasize that life has to have meaning beyond just money, good fancy colleges, and that sort of thing.
How was that received over there? Because you did say like that's something that they weren't expecting. Was that something that you kind of got any negative feedback? Because like even like the schools hearing from parents, like because of how different of a like of a perspective that was than they were probably expecting to get.
I'd say 5% of parents, 10% of parents were a little disappointed. 50% didn't care. 40% were a little receptive. But if if even one or two are a little bit receptive, that makes a difference. We wound up speaking to 1.2 million people in the live stream, about 20, 30,000 people in person. And, I'd get notes from students after being like, that's the first time I've heard anything like that. I think of everything I've done, like those speeches are probably making the biggest impact, more so than any TV platform I've ever had. Those are the kids who need to hear it. I've gotten notes from kids who are contemplating suicide because they feel like their parents want them to be a doctor and they want nothing to do with it. And their whole life, I mean, especially too, like in East Asian countries, things are just so much more demanding. And we see that infrastructure wise too. But you have kids who are told like they're not good enough unless they meet someone else's expectations. And so I try to reshape and reframe their thinking. Most of the time, it probably doesn't work, but if it works, and even 10% of the time, that's good enough for me.
Because yeah, the way you got to think about it too is it's not even necessarily you need to change the minds of the parents. It's like the fact that that kid gets that perspective at such an age where it's going to make an impact to them that they're like maybe in their head they're like I'm not going to put that kind of pressure on my kids when I have kids one day. You know what I mean? So it's like that's definitely a slow burning process too to like make that kind of change. I feel like which is
It,
it must have been a great impact.
I hope so. It's all about just planting that one little seed and hoping it sprouts. That's the goal.
Absolutely. Uh, but you do you have any plans on going back there ever, or is that especially with something with COVID that it's not going to be likely?
With there are a lot of really nice, really great people in China who I met. I think between the COVID situation, politically, some of the content of my book, I'd be reluctant to do so anytime soon. I just, I don't know. It does make me a little nervous going over there, especially like when I've had minders and stuff. It's just, I don't know. The kids have asked me questions before that I've answered, and the minders will change my answers when they give to them, and I don't like that. And that sort
Do
of
you,
thing freaks me out.
do you speak Mandarin to know, like at all to know like that what they were changing at all, or is that something you
No,
think?
but I had a friend in the audience who spoke fluent English and Mandarin, actually works as a translator right now. But the kids would ask me questions about like, gun culture in the U.S. or should gay marriage be allowed in China, and I answer very bluntly, very honestly, and it would change my answers, or and I don't like that.
Yeah, because that's like immediate censorship too. Because it's also like in their heads, if they don't know English, they're thinking like, oh, this like very educated person from another country is saying this to me.
Yeah,
So
they're attaching essentially like Matthew thinks gay marriage shouldn't be a thing, and like I
yeah,
represent not only me but also America and Harvard at that point, whereas like I literally had said the opposite. Like it's just stuff like that freaks me out, and I don't want my name, voice, likeness, anything associated with something that I think could be pernicious to kids. And an answer like that, where I answer something very positive, very affirming, very encouraging, and it's turned into something that is the opposite. I don't want any association with that.
yeah, that is super freaky. I don't know that because I feel like that's a freaky situation to be in because then you can't really fight back on that at all either because it's like you don't obviously I don't know that seems like a super stressful situation and that doesn't seem enjoyable. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I just feel like I need to get way more comfortable traveling before I go to like a pressure, more like a that because I feel like culturally like the norms and stuff like that are so different. Like if honestly, if I like offended somebody in like Germany or the Netherlands because I like drank my beer stupidly or something like that, I don't care what they think. You know what I mean? But like I feel like it would come with such disrespect because it's like would be so different. I don't know. Travel like that stresses me out. I want to go and relax and not have to worry about
Yeah,
pissing people off.
I got invited to Russia, and that was one I turned down. I was like,
Really, even before
they were
the
just. This was last October, and I had a lot going on at the time, but also the invite just seemed sketchy. Like they couldn't provide enough information. They knew too much about me. It just everything about it seemed iffy. And it would have been nice. It would have been $4,000 to give a speech, but also like I couldn't even tell if they were legitimate or not. And I had friends who were Russian trying to look into it for me, and I was like, it's not worth. It's not worth it.
Yeah, especially going over to another like especially in your situation, dude. Like that seems like I wouldn't want to risk that. That was probably a good call on your end. Maybe a divine intervention.
Yeah, there've been a couple times. I've had so many weird trips though. Like one time in China, I kind of got kidnapped. Another time, like
What?
yeah, it wasn't even anything government wise. It was that I was at the airport. I've been awake for like 24 hours straight. I not thinking my best, and it was like 1 in the morning. Some lady told me she was directing me to the airport to the hotel shuttle to go from the airport to like the airport hotel, and she wound up putting me in a car that drove 15-ish minutes away from the airport, and then they took me and demanded $300 for this sketchy motel in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, this is a scam. And I was like, bring me back to the airport, but they brought me to an ATM instead. It was a fiasco. But I got back to the airport, I got my money back, and I threatened to call Chinese 911.
Jesus Christ, dude.
Trust Chinese 911, especially as a foreigner.
Well, dude,
Chinese
do they-
911
do
helps
they-
too, and they ask for $300 next too.
yeah,
Bring you to the same motel.
Yes, dude. I also do they like speak English on Chinese 911? Like if you call them like, "Hey, I almost got kidnapped," would they be like, "Oh, 1 sec, I can speak English too"? I don't think they would they?
No, but they didn't know I couldn't speak Mandarin, so I just held up the phone. I was like, 10, 9, 8, like, give me my money back.
Damn, that's fucking
Respect that.
crazy.
Especially
I
because
would
had
just
no-
give them the
they didn't
$300
provide my cell
probably.
service. Obviously my phone doesn't work in China.
That's not obvious, honestly.
Yeah, that seems like a place I'd pay for the minutes.
Who was president at that time?
Zelensky. No,
No. He was asking
That's
who was.
next year.
same guy, same guy. It's been the same guy
Oh,
forever.
it's
No,
okay.
in America.
Oh, America.
When you got kidnapped in China, was it Biden or Trump?
Oh, it was Trump, but I mean, it made no difference. I got back. I was
Trump
good.
would have saved you.
Trump
Oh,
would
A
have
yeah.
couple
saved
of my
you.
other
Boots
friends,
on the
a
ground.
couple of my
Probably.
other friends have had like weird run-ins with that. But
Really?
yeah, I mean, I like South America. It's chill. Everyone's chill. Everyone's happier. Part. And I mean, I've mostly spent time in Chile and Argentina, and Chile and Bolivia, but I'm so pumped for Australia. I need a vacation. I've
Those
worked
people are
94
criminals,
days.
bro.
I've worked 94 days in a row, and
Jeez. That's
I
crazy,
love
dude.
work.
I
But
wish
it's-
I was that passionate about something. Like,
Yeah, so it's tough because I work for 5 different weather gigs, and it's usually 50-ish hours per week. During storm season, it's more. But the thing is that, and this will sound arrogant, but it's not meant in that way. I don't like negotiating, but I also love it. So once a year, I ask for I ask for a number from one employer, and they will meet it. And I don't go too high, I don't go too low. I go exactly what I know I'm worth, and that employer will meet it. I will take that number to all the other employers, and I'm like, match this. And there's never any discussion. It's like match it or else like that's it. Like it's not even a matter of like this is what I want. It's a matter of this is my price in effect beginning December 1st or January 1st.
Dude, that's
And-
BDE, bro. That's BDE, dude. Walking in
But-
there, flopping that out, dude. That's
But
mad funny.
they've all been great about it because I don't do it in a greedy way. I know exactly sort of where I should be. And that's also more than I think I'm worth. And so like at this point in my life, the money is still here. It's great money. So I'm like, I might as well just work and milk this as much as I possibly can. Like I will work 70, 80 hours a week if y'all want me to, because who knows how long this kind of money is going to stick around in weather. Like it, and I'm so fortunate. I really am, because most jobs in weather pay dirt. Most of my friends in weather make between 30 and 45 grand. And at best, they might make 55 to 60. And I mean, that's good money. Then I see where I am right now, and it's tough not to feel like almost survivor's guilt, because I'm not that much better than my friends. In some cases, they might be better forecasters than me, but I'm in a really good position, and I'm like, I can't take this for granted. I will work as much as I possibly can. Like, if I feel tired, I might be tired briefly, but I'm like, it is selfish to feel tired, because people would kill for these jobs. People would kill to have this job, to have this flexibility, make what I make, get to do what they love in an environment like this, have an apartment that's in DC. Like, people would kill for this. So I'm like, you know what? I refuse to be tired. I will be tired when I die. I should not be tired. It is ungrateful to be tired.
That makes.
Dude, damn. Get this kid a fucking motivational TikTok. Dude. The motivational music behind that. That's how.
So do you
Dude,
have a bunch of hourly gigs,
We'll
Matt?
make
and you
it.
kind of
We
work
got the clip.
like. Is that how it
So-
works? Or are you salaried on any of them?
So for about, I used to be the Washington Post full time, and they didn't pay great.
But that's
They-
been a while though, right? You were at the Washington Post.
I was at the Washington Post 2 years. I had pitched an idea to them that I knew would be a big idea and take off. My boss loved it, but his boss and sort of the higher ups never made it happen. And
Papa
that's when I started
Bezos?
kind of.
he missed
It was
out,
more-
dude.
The Washington Post is a great place with very talented journalists, but there are a lot of sort of interdepartmental things that don't always link up, and bureaucratic processes. And sort of my idea never took off. And I was like, fine, look elsewhere. Got the gig at Fox last June, and they were willing to offer, I mean, in December, they offered 45 to almost 50% more than the Post. And so then but by that point, Fox wanted me full time for the morning 4 to 6 time slot, from what I gather. They asked full time, they wouldn't tell me the time slot, but 4 to 6 opened up. And I knew that a 4 to 6 time slot in the morning would sort of just make it impossible for me to live as a 24-year-old person and date and hang out with friends and all this stuff. And so I wound up doing, my boss is the best boss in the entire world. He said, how about this? You can be our permanent fill-in. You can negotiate for what rate you want. And I mean, we'll keep you as like the permanent fill-in guy. You'll be flexible. We'll be flexible. You won't get vacation time, but you can travel whenever you want and we'll make it happen. No one in the country has, and you can also work other jobs. No one in the country has a TV contract like that. But my boss, again, he's awesome. He actually used to live in Sandwich, Mass, and now lives in DC. Like we have mutual friends from high school. Like his son and I have mutual friends from high school. Just great boss. And then so that currently I'm a contractor there, so that's hourly. The Washington Post is hourly. My Radar, the app that I work for, used to be hourly. They wanted me to move down to Florida, and I was like, no. And finally, after a while, we sort of negotiated for full time. They would match my Fox 5 full time offer. And then what else do I do? NPR falls under my Washington Post duties. If it's an individual hit from NPR, they'll just mail me money. And then BBC News, DW News, Sky News Arabia, they have sort of fixed amounts for how much a hit is. So like BBC News, if you're on the news, they'll pay you like £50. DW News will pay you 80. Sky News Arabia, if it's a hit that's less than 20 minutes, like you're on air for up to 10 minutes, it'll be 200. If it's a pre-recorded thing, it'll be 100. And so it's a really cobbled together income. It's weird.
That makes sense. So do you have to at least give 80 hours a week total between the two companies, or am I hearing it wrong?
So
'Cause you said
on
full time
paper-
twice. Like I'm
Yeah,
saying,
I was
you
curious
said
about that as well.
full time, two different.
So I'm
full-time
not
jobs.
full time at Fox. Fox,
Oh.
like I might this week I'm not working at all. Next week I'm working 2 or 3 days. It
Oh, I
varies
get
a
it.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I might there are weeks where I might work 60 hours a week. There are weeks I might work only like 30 a week. Like this week's pretty chill. Oh, and I do educational consulting on the side, and that's 1099 as well. So like on paper, it might be 55 hours a week sometimes. In practice, it might be closer to 35 or 40. One of the things that I do with my employees is kind of like a don't ask, don't tell in terms of how long something takes me. If I'm being paid full-time salary, to me, that doesn't mean 9 to 5. To me, that means I get my work done, period. And if you're going to give me like a full-time gig's worth of work, I can get it done whenever I want, as long as it's in on time and is the full amount of work. My Radar sort of takes that approach. They're a tech company. They're really good about that. They don't ask how long I work. I don't tell them how long I work. There are times I work more. There are times I work less. It all comes out in the wash. Same thing with the Washington Post. Same thing with Fox. I get my work done, and my bosses are great about that.
That's dope, dude. Good for you, man. Kid's killing it.
It's a lot of like jigsaw puzzling. There are times when it's overwhelming. Like I'll finish a hit at Fox. I might do, there are times when if Fox threw me on for a last minute shift that I didn't know I have, which sometimes happens, I might have a Washington Post article that's due anyway. So I'll be typing up that, or I was typing up the book during the commercial breaks. I'd finish Fox, go home, do something for my radar, which I record something. It's very irregular. My life is chaotic, and I love it. I love that chaos because I always have a million things going on at once, but it keeps life interesting. It does.
So who would you say, like, somebody that you've had like an interview with, that you've worked with, someone that's like, what would you say, like, your kind of like biggest, like, not wow moment, but like coolest person to interact with, in your experience so far?
Gosh, that's tough. I met so
Besides
many awesome
Cooper.
people.
Yeah, besides Cooped Up Conversations.
You know what's funny is that, like, this might sound like a silly example, but in Boston, you might remember on Channel 5, there used to be this guy, Jim Lokay. He was an anchor. He do usually the morning or noon newscasts. And I always used to watch it because my family watched Channel 5. Now he works as the main anchor at Fox 5. And I still get so starstruck when I'm on the same, like we'll do the same newscast. I still get so starstruck with him or other people at the station who I've watched for a long time. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're on TV. Like, that's the so-and-so. And then I'm like, oh shoot, I guess I'm on TV technically too. But like it genuinely
Is it just
doesn't
ingrained
register.
in your mind almost?
It just does not register. Like, to me, I'm just in an empty room pointing at things that don't exist. Like, people will come up to me at restaurants and stuff, be like, I love watching you. I'm like, where are you, creep?
And then you're like, wait a
Oh.
second. Wait a second.
I'm a big fan of watching you.
And
What
it's a
fucking window
very,
are you looking through?
I'm like, I'm on the 10th floor. How do you see me? Like, is there a webcam in here?
You
Oh
just
my
Whoa.
That's funny.
But like, it doesn't register. Or people, they love following on Twitter, and they'll know, because I tweet a lot about my personal life, and they'll know things about my friends, or they'll know things about my family. Like, I'll go out to a restaurant with a couple friends. They'll know a bit about my friends, and sometimes that freaks my friends out. But I'm like, oh, like, for example, the other day I went to supper with my friend Sahil, and we're sitting in a restaurant, and they're like, and some random lady's like, oh, you're Sahil from the cruise. He's like, huh? Because I posted one group picture of like myself and my friends coming off this cruise. Some friends do hate it, and so I try not to post much of them. But it's really funny.
I told him to deal with it. You want to be friends with Cappucci?
No, well, we don't.
Take
We
it.
don't, dude. That's
Best
like,
has been a couple times on Tinder dates where, like, I'll go out to a restaurant and some random person will come up and be like, Cappucci, we're big fans. I'm like,
dude. Yes.
Is
dude.
it ever like a good thing, or is it sometimes?
Nice.
Do you
it
pay
might be
for
a little,
Tinder
like-
Plus, Cappucci, or not? You're not a Tinder Plus guy?
what?
Are you a
Cappucci
Tinder
didn't pay
Plus
for
guy?
Uber. You think
That's
he's paying
true.
for
You
Tinder
don't-
Plus?
He might, dude. I
I-
don't know.
I don't even have time to swipe these days. I'm just hoping that one day my person shows up. No, what was the question? Is it ever bad? No. And like, I will give someone as much time as they possibly want. If I have time to give, I will. I will do any media engagement. I will go, like, I'm driving to Loudoun County. That's way out, an hour from DC to do a school talk. But the reason I can do what I do is because so many nice people hear what I have to say. They follow on social media. They watch on air. They listen to the radio. These folks have been so welcoming in a way that no other city would be. And they've made this place home. And I will go to the ends of the earth if that's what it takes to hopefully return the favor in whatever way I can.
See, like, do you feel like there's another city? Not saying that you're gonna leave, not saying that you want to leave, but like, is there another city in America besides, like, let's say Boston, besides DC, that you could see yourself moving to and enjoying, kind of living at?
I've really struggled with that in that, there have been a couple other opportunities that have been a little bit flirty. And in my head, I'm like, I can't, like, my radar, they said, name your price to come down to Orlando. I was like, no, like, I'm
Could
staying
not
here.
price me to go to Orlando, to be real.
Yeah, I mean, DC is home, but there have been other opportunities that have sort of entered the equation and stuff too. And I can't leave DC. DC is home. Again, I've never had to build myself in any other city. Like I've sort of built my brand and built who I am here in DC. I know I could do it again. It would be tricky. I could see myself going to Houston. I could see myself going to Dallas. Like I do love Texas. West Coast, I don't think I'd go to. Denver, I could see myself going to, but it would be tough. Like this place has a culture. This place has a lot of transient people, though. Like I've had friends come in, go, come in, go. That's one of the tricky things about DC. But because of that, I use my platform to try to make it feel like just a little bit smaller of a place. And that's why I try to be so genuine on air and like people know I'm just little old me. I work with people who some are genuine, some have a bit of a different TV persona. I'm just little old me. And I think that's what people need. They need to feel like they have a friend on TV, one other person who's just the same.
Dude, you're like a weatherman, Mr. Rogers, dude.
That's the goal. I really do aim to be Mr. Rogers. That's why, for example, like I think folks in DC know me for is that on the radio, like you've heard NPR. NPR has a very flat, very predictable style.
Yeah.
And especially during the pandemic, I was like, how can I make DC feel like a smaller place? There are a lot of people who don't have anyone or who have horrible home situations or have whatever. And radio or TV is their way to connect with other people. Like they welcome us into their living room. They welcome us into their car. So I start every radio forecast, well, gang, blah, 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 blah. And I chose that phrase as very consciously to make it seem like, hey, we're all one gang. We're all like one whatever. Like, let's have a friendly weather chat. And that's what I do. And it surprised a lot of people. And it's a different style. NPR doesn't really do that. And I received over 12 to 1,300 comments from people who were like, that warmth is something I don't get anywhere else. Like I got one lady who said she was caring for her dying mother during COVID. She had no human interaction, no whatever. And for 45 seconds on Monday afternoons, Friday afternoons, or Thursday mornings, she said she could finally breathe because she felt like she was talking with a friend. And I get a lot of notes like that from people who I've never met. And if a little 2-word phrase can do something like that, it shows the power that media still has. And that's sort of how I treat it.
You made me think of something. Do you think, and I don't mean to say this in like a toot your own, like I'm trying to toot your horn, Matt, but like, do you think people in the DC area like realize they have like something unique and special with you, if that makes sense, compared to like another top 10 TV market like person who does what you do? Obviously, like, do you think they like you know what I mean? If
do I feel like do they sort of appreciate me?
you're like it's just because like clearly I feel like you're like there's clearly like there's something different.
You're like a
about
local
you.
celebrity already.
Yeah,
You talked about your
yeah.
bookstore,
That's what I'm
having
saying.
full
Like
stores. Yeah.
there's other. You said DC's a top 10 TV market, right?
Yeah.
So there's 9 other markets that are just as big. Like I wonder if the people there like appreciate like local media as much because of what you've like done.
I think
If that doesn't make sense, we can move on.
No, that's a really good question. You can get the forecast from anywhere these days.
Yeah,
You can get
that's
it
what I
from
was
an
thinking.
app.
Yeah.
And like honestly, people have a lot of choices, and I think what keeps people coming back is that there are very few people anywhere who have this much passion and who also love the people who they serve that much. Like DC has given me so much that I genuinely love this city. I love everything about it, and I love my job, and I think that's a breath of fresh air for a lot of people. I think folks too. People are a lot smarter than we think. They can see right through it. Like you know who on TV is putting on a shtick or a facade, and you know who is themselves. And I think people recognize that. People, I mean, the love that I get, for example, with the book tour,
Ellen.
who's going to show up at like 4 p.m. on a Thursday or on a Wednesday for a book tour in a tough to get to part of town? I didn't think anyone was going to, and I showed up. They had 40 chairs. They never fill 40 chairs. We had 60 something people. And
Yeah.
one might be someone who I shared an Uber with. One might be whatever. Like I got a note from a lady a couple weeks ago saying, you met my mother in an airport. And I remember this woman too. She was going to Sacramento. She was a grandmother. She'd come here for her granddaughter's birthday party. And we struck up a conversation. And she said, my mother came home and told me about you because no one ever sits and talks. And then, like, I hadn't even told her my name. She apparently Googled me to figure out who I was and went back from there. She said, I got the book and like, we're reading about you, but thanks for keeping my grandmother company. Or when I got into Fox, some lady wrote in and was like, you don't remember, 2 years ago we were in the same Uber pool. Blah blah blah. So happy to
Classic
see you there.
man,
Like
Liverpool.
just
Sorry.
random things like this, and I think people just need that breath of fresh air these
Yeah,
days. And
especially
I,
with the whole TV thing, kind of, I guess, on
yeah,
the way
so
out.
much
Like I
it's
don't think
fake
about
and divisive.
the local weather people here, or like the local TV personalities here, and I'm like wondering if you've like even brought people because they kind of like it's like, oh, that's Matt, like I'm gonna check it out because like we said, like most young people aren't turning on Fox News. I mean, I assume most
I'd
of your
like to
market
think
is wonderful old woman, but
I was gonna ask what demographic do you test really well with? Because I know you get all the stats.
so the reason I love Fox is because, and I don't know sort of how blunt I can be with this, but I love the parent company. Some folks have different opinions. I will say that local DC is very different from Fox National, and
oh,
they
of
have a smart
course, yeah.
business model. They give me a lot of freedom, but also, one thing that we have a lot of really loyal viewers from Prince George's County off to our east, and we have a lot of we have loyal viewers across the DMV. But the reason I love our viewers is because we don't have as many of those like fancy schmancy high positions like whatever. We have the people who are getting up early. We have the bus drivers, the nurses, the people who really run things and who make the big difference. I'd say the folks who are like the everyday heroes that make society what it is. Other people might watch different channels, but we have the people that makes this city tick, and that's why I love this group.
So what you're saying is Biden doesn't watch. No, I'm just kidding.
What you're saying
I,
is
I,
older
I,
women love Matthew Cappucci. That's the demographic.
No, I know exactly what he's saying. Prince George County people. I know the
I don't
but
know
like
what that is.
all
I don't know.
across the DMV,
Maryland.
but really, we have a core working class group, and that's what I want. Like there are other channels in the DMV that appeal to mainly sort of the fancy schmancy, super high income people. They might all watch the same channel. For us, we have the working class people, and I mean, these are the people that I think are the most important and who I resonate with the most because I mean, I am a working class people. We are working. I mean, we're from Plymouth. We are working class people. We're not from Duxbury. We're not from a fancy schmancy
We're
background.
calling you out, Duxbury. Hanover.
Silver Lake. No, but we're
Yeah.
working class people, and I think folks see that and they appreciate that, and that's why I love our demographic the best. And I really love the people who I get to work for. And I
That
like
is-
to. No one ever tells me what to say. If I went to
That's
another
good.
station, it'd be very different. My manager, my boss, Paul, has never told us what to say. He's like, look, if you're doing something that works, do it. I get really technical, and I thought like a month in, I was like, I don't know if he's gonna like this. And he said, we're gonna run a promo, like we're gonna run a commercial, basically advertising your nerdiness. And
See, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Like that's what I was. I think I heard about that, and I think that was my original question. Is like, you're not just going. So it's gonna not to knock any meteorologists, you know what I mean? But you're
It's
not just saying
gonna
it's gonna
rain.
rain, it's gonna do this. Like I think I remember seeing that, unless I'm just making it up, and I was like, see, like the people in DC, like it's like different. They get like a special.
get it.
Special
And I
treat.
think that, but yeah, that goes
Get a
into
special
why.
I
treat.
don't know. It's like different. It's hard for me to explain and not sound like
No,
an
I
idiot.
know
But
exactly
I
what
think,
you're saying.
Let's be honest. No one here watches local news. I mean,
No.
no one, none of you four, and most young people don't. We still have middle-aged and older people who are watching local news, and they keep us in business.
Yeah.
I don't know if there will be a day when that changes, if the model will shift, if whatever. That's also why I work so many different jobs. But I think because there are so many competing sources of attention, we need to be either more than, better than, or different than our competition. And so many local newscasters are struggling to do that. How many people just get up there, they do the same forecast, and like there are people who I've worked with before who will get up there, do the forecast, and that's it. Like that
Which is
in
it's your job.
2 minutes
fine.
goes by, two
Yeah.
minutes goes by, and you're like, what happened? But people, in order to keep people, I think we need to educate them. We have to entertain them. We have to give them something more. And so I try to be both educating and giving people, edifying people, but also being a little bit
Yeah.
entertained, being very genuine, and sort of being a friend for people. And that's what people need.
Like
and
you have the morning shift, right? Or did I hear wrong before?
so I'm all over the place.
So I was
they
like, think
usually
about
put-
I was gonna say, just think about the times where like a mom turns it on and a little 8-year-old daughter is sitting next to her. You know what I mean? Getting ready in the morning, maybe you got her excited. You know what I mean? You got her attention, or somebody who normally doesn't watch
The
you listen to
goal.
their friend
And
TV.
if it's 30 or 40 seconds per day, like for example, when I was down in Florida last week, we knew Ian was coming ashore. It's going to be a bad storm, and I work with the My Radar app, and everyone does a forecast for adults, and they're all the same. I said, screw it. I'm going to do a forecast for kids because how many parents in Florida are getting ready to evacuate their kids? It's a scary thing. If there's a Cat 4 bearing down on you and you're evacuating your kids who have no idea what's going on, that's scary. So why not do a 2.5 minute forecast for kids in terms kids can understand, explaining to them what this is? And I did. And it took off. It got like 150, 160 retweets, 20,000 views just on my Twitter, never mind in the app, online, and all the other places. And that's what people need. They need someone. I mean, it's such a privilege to be able to be on TV because people are welcoming you into their homes. And so I don't take that for granted. I want to make sure that from being welcomed into the homes, I'm there for everyone. Grandpa in the chair, grandma knitting in the corner, the kids who might be at the breakfast table, the adults who are on their way to work. I want to give something to everyone, and I try. I don't always succeed, but I try.
No, exactly. Yeah. It's like I feel like Cooper is right. It's a mix between Mr. Rogers and a little Neil deGrasse hair. What's his name? Hair.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah, a little bit of that in there. Like you're making it like
You make it approachable, which is
Yeah.
great.
Thanks.
And it's something really refreshing because, like, especially in your form of media, I feel like it's so rare to find people that like are authentic to, like, you're not, like you said, you can tell people put on like on-air characters. You're someone who's not doing that on a daily basis and like really succeeding
just
doing
because
that, which is great.
just because cable television is dying doesn't mean that like passion for the things that are on cable television need to die with it.
No, absolutely not.
I
But-
figure there will always be an audience somewhere. I don't know where that audience will be. That's why I try to be on all platforms. But,
Well, so can we
it's
ask?
scary career-wise. What was that?
What's your OnlyFans?
My only clouds.
Only
clouds.
clouds, dude. All
You know what's funny?
luxurious cloud
I
pictures.
thought about making it only clouds, and hear me out. Not for sketchy reasons.
Wait, what is
Periodically-
OnlyCloud? Sorry, I get it. Go ahead.
It's a joke. I mean, I
No,
thought about
get
making.
it, yeah, I took me a second, but I get it now.
I thought about making one, not for sketchy reasons, but because here's the thing. A lot of media personalities get creepy messages. How great would it be if I could just, rather than delete, rather than deleting all these, just randomly reply an OnlyFans link? Somebody's going to think, oh my gosh, like, jackpot, he's on there. And then they'd pay $5 to see whatever's hiding behind the wall, and it would just be pictures of clouds. And it would just say, like, stratus, cirrus,
Dude, can you
cumulus.
please do that?
You'd have to have like a bunch of like pictures first, because like
Yeah.
actually don't ask how I know this.
I have a million cloud pictures.
Okay,
But-
yeah, good.
I
you
could
go.
sort of get $5 from each creeper and teach them a valuable lesson. Stop
clouds.
creeping on media personalities.
I'm creeping up.
Have you ever thought? Speaking of that, though, I know you're busy. Have you ever thought about like Patreon and having people pay like? It's hard.
I
It's not like
have,
to be
and-
consistent. I feel like it's just your schedule's too busy, but I feel like
Substack, was it Substack? I think Substack reached out to me. They wanted to do a partnership, and I was like, I can entertain this eventually. I'm
yeah,
so overextended right now that
yeah, exactly, yeah.
as it is,
Come to
yeah.
Because that's
Substack
probably
for
like one
free.
of the next steps to make like money. Because like you have an audience, like you should spend this time just building your brand, like you are, and then there's just ways to. There's obviously always going to be ways to make money, especially when you have a brand and an audience. So
Yeah,
I think you
so-
do pretty well in that world.
That's the goal.
When that day comes.
I mean, we'll see how it goes. I have many ideas, many plans.
Yeah.
I want to grow out my YouTube platform, but I part of me is like, did I miss the bandwagon on that? I don't do as well on
No.
Facebook. I do really well on Twitter. TikTok,
do
I'm trying to get
TikTok.
better. Actually, now I'm running My Radar's TikTok. 2 weeks ago, we had like 300 followers. Now we're up to about 9,500. I'm hoping to get to 20,000 by the end of next month. So they're happy with that.
Jeez.
I'm gonna probably
Yeah, I'm gonna
stitch
go
every
follow.
video.
Yeah, we'll follow. That's great.
I'm gonna.
Dude, Cappucci, anything else that you got going on? Anything we want to talk about? Because we've taken up your time for about 2 hours, dude. Time is flying when you're having fun.
I'm
Anything you
having
wanna-
fun. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't having fun. I mean, I
We appreciate you being here, dude. It's great talking to you, man. It really is. It's been a fucking long time.
I went home from happy hour. I was like, I gotta go, hanging out with my high school friends, and Pro Cop, who is now an honorary high school friend. I said Zoom, but apparently it's Discord, which I still don't. I had no idea what my password was, but apparently I got it right.
That's kind of me with everything. I just like
Yeah,
press my keyboard and I'm like, oh.
that worked. I
Yeah.
use like 10 passwords that I rotate. So
I finally got a new computer. I'm pumped because this is the one I had in high school. And actually,
Holy
no, this is what I
smokes.
got at the end of high school into college. Remember how I used to take my watch off when I would use my Mac, so I was afraid to scratch it?
Yeah.
This thing, I have dropped this so many times. Like, it lost all of its padding down bottom. It has fallen off the back of my truck. It's been through hell, and I finally got a new one from work. And knock on wood, it stays intact.
dude,
So
say
that's
what
gonna
you will
last
about
you
Macs, Joe, but
2
Macs
Macs in your
last
career.
long.
They do.
Mine last a little longer, I just want to point out, than most Macs that I've seen. It's just, I feel like you get duds where like they break within like a week. Some of
I
them
got
are a
mine
year.
replaced. Yeah, there was something wrong with like the hardware. And I got it replaced when I still had Apple Care, thank God. But like other than that, like I haven't had any real problems with it.
I had some issues initially with this one. It kind of lit on fire once because
Oh,
of
word?
what had happened was I had volcanic rocks in my backpack that I forgot about, which are magnetic. And so over time, all these kind of magnetic things, or all the rocks sort of chafed against each other, caused little fragments and dust. So over time, that gathered in the magnetic charging port. And then one day I went to plug it in and I came back and it was like smoking a little bit. I was like, uh-oh. And it shorted out and whatnot. But I got a new charging port put in and happy times. They're like, what caused this? I'm like, I don't know.
Just lit on fire. Don't know what to tell
Yeah,
you.
I'm surprised mine didn't light on fire at Sego. That place had so much dust.
Yeah,
Like
dude.
asbestos coming off the walls and stuff. When I first opened it up, dude, like I cleaned it out once a year and it was just like, it's amazed that I did not burn in my bed at least once.
I'll use electric blankets.
No.
I don't even use blankets anymore.
What?
What do you do? How do you sleep?
It's it's so hot. Like in college and stuff, it was just so hot that I've just gotten used to like not liking having a blanket on me.
That
I
is
can't sleep
insane.
without a blanket, really.
I need a
Like,
blanket.
yeah, if I don't have a blanket, I don't feel comfy sometimes. I feel exposed.
Yeah, I have never slept without a blanket. Actually, I mean, I do sleep in weird places sometimes, but that's just by virtue of my schedule. I can, well, you know what's great? It's a superpower now. Because I'm always a little bit tired, I can sleep anywhere. I have slept. So one time I worked the evening shift and then I was double back into the morning shift on air. And like, I just slept on the floor. It was great behind the green
I
screen.
slept on the
Well,
floor.
wait, what
Wonderful.
You don't have couches?
is it? Are people used to just be like, "Hey, Matt," they don't like they want to say something. They're like, "Oh, he's sleeping. Never mind," and they'll leave you be.
I didn't know we had couches, but apparently we have couches. So someone showed me a couch, and it is the most comfortable couch in the entire world. I've only done that once during a snowstorm since, but oh my gosh, it's so comfy. Or like, I'll randomly sleep on buses. Oh, you know what's great? I got bumped to first class the other day for the first time ever. And then coming back from Florida, it happened again. So I could finally like sprawl out and sleep, and they gave
Where
me
was-
mimosas, and it was wonderful.
I got
They
bumped to
gave
first class
you
once,
mimosas.
and guess who was on my flight? Mr. Wonderful.
Evan O'Leary?
Yeah, he was on my flight.
You're a
No
quiet
way.
quitter. You're a loser.
And they gave us they gave us fancy stuff, and I'm like, Mr. Wonderful doesn't know that I am in fact poor as shit right now. But he thinks I'm at the same class as him.
He would make them stop the flight if he ever found out.
If he found out
That
a
this
person
kid
like me.
back with the commoners.
Get him back! Get him back! I can
Land
smell.
this plane. Land this plane.
Heck, on Sunday when I was coming back, I showed up in like I told y'all like mud-caked pants that my boss had given me because I only brought one pair of long pants to Florida because I thought I wasn't gonna have to be formal for the hurricane. So like mud-caked pants. I look, I haven't shaved all week because I haven't been on air for a little while. I look like a mess. I am exhausted. The dark circles have never been darker. I have shredded shopping bags filled with just Waffle House takeout from days ago. I cram underneath my seat, my backpack, my bags, overfilled. Have a couple of mimosas, fall asleep, and then as I'm getting off the plane, like that anchor from PBS NewsHour, nicest guy ever, is like, "Are you Matthew Cappucci?" Is like, my hash browns are falling on the floor, and like I'm trying to get my bag from on top. I'm like, why? Yes, I am. I'm not normally like this, and in my head, I'm like, I'm always like this. I am a natural disaster.
No, that's working. That's working person right there.
I do not belong in first class. I belong in the back of the plane. Hell, I belong in the wing.
I always said it. The
The
back of the
luggage.
plane is so nice sometimes because it's sneaky, like
It's
only
chill.
like 2 seats. And if it's a good airline, they'll give a little space between like the direct back so you can still put your seat back, because sometimes that's what happens in the back of the plane is like you can't put your seat back. And now you don't even feel guilty about it because there's no one behind you. It's fantastic.
Oh yeah, I love flying. I really do.
No, I do too. I'm like, do you like are you a aisle or a window guy?
Depends. 4 hours or less, I'm a window. Anything more than 4, I'm an aisle.
Good. That was exactly the right answer. Because if you
And,
just
like-
want to get up, if you want the option to stretch your legs, and you don't also want to be that person who is being like, excuse me.
I've traveled with friends. Yeah, I've traveled with friends who like I will book myself the window if it's a scenic flight. I've traveled with friends who are like, "Can I have the window?" I'm like, "Yes, only if I can get through to take pictures because we're flying over like a glacier in Argentina." Falls asleep, blocks the window. Now I will never be nice to anyone on an airplane again. If I book the seat, it is my seat, no matter what.
I think the only time I would give up my seat is for like if a person wanted to be next to their child or something. I think that's the only
Even
example I
then,
could.
probably.
They should have paid
Cappucci
extra
and
for
Cooper.
that.
Is that a
Apple
donut?
cider donut. Yeah, my mom went to Trader Joe's. Right, we're trying to. I haven't been snacking because there's no snacks here. There is like, dude. She comes back from Trader Joe's with $150 of baked goods. I'm not kidding. She bought a cinnamon and a chocolate babka, and I'm like, "Why'd you buy those?" And she's like, "Oh, well, it's like Seinfeld. It's funny." I'm like, "What?"
That's a little anti. I'm not gonna say the word chocolate babka. That's my culture.
Dude,
This
what are
is-
you snack?
this is-
what-
This is me having. I sometimes they send me out for field trips, and one of them was just going to eat donuts. This is me just happily eating apple cider donuts on television.
Your life hasn't changed. That's like sending us to like Plymouth Rock, and then you don't even.
So we've got apples for all your baking needs and all your fresh eating apples. So Crimson Crisp, Honey Crisp, all those great things. We've got a lot of them. So it's one of those times. You want to stop at the market and really try your apples. Everyone does.
You're literally like, let me chew. Let me chew.
Like I had said to him beforehand that. So that's Tyler Butler. He owns an orchard and really an entire estate here. But I've said to him a million times, like, if I'm eating, just let me eat. Stall for me.
That's what I was
He's the best.
thinking. Like,
Dude. Dude, you gotta send that picture. That needs to be the cover photo of the fucking pod now. That is so funny.
do you like panic in that moment? Like, I feel like I don't even experience that, but like if you're chewing, you're like, this isn't down yet. Like this isn't down.
Because you're on
Choke.
TV, you know people
Yeah,
are
like-
watching.
There's Danny DeVito plays like a role on Broadway where there's a specific scene where he has to peel and down a hard-boiled egg while performing. And he's like, this is like the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And I've gotten really good at peeling and downing hard-boiled eggs.
This is that same morning. They're getting ready to toss me for break.
Getting a taste of fall this morning.
That's right, Matthew Cappucci. He is out on a Fox 5 field trip in Germantown. Oh my goodness, what do we have here? Matthew, what are you doing out there?
Take a tour ride through the raspberry patch. That's exactly what I did. Coming up, we'll talk with Tyler Butler, who is in charge here. I gotta say, it is never a dull day in the office here at Fox 5.
That's so fucking funny, dude.
When they send me out for field trips, I have fun. Next week they're sending me out to a winery, and
Are you gonna? Did you warn them this time? Give them a little heads
they
up.
sent me to a winery a couple times before, and I am prone to getting the giggles. And it's
Man,
I work really hard doing weather, and they know, like, I've Skyped in to do tornado warnings from Texas before, and once in a while they'll send me out on like just perfect mornings. They once sent me to a chocolate factory, and they're like, just go out and have chocolate. And they send me home with all this chocolate. It's wonderful. So, they're just perfect mornings that they give me, and I love those. Plus, it's a 3-hour shift when I'm doing a field trip. I get there at 6:48, or really like 6:26. I get there. I'm on at 6:40, 6:48, 7:48, 8:48, 9:23, and I'm done. Those are good mornings.
So you get paid to go on field trips now?
Yeah,
That's the dream, dude.
it's weird. Like you're just paid to go and drink wine in the morning.
Pretty much like not working
You
either.
go drink
so it's
wine
like,
at 6 a.m.
It's like I would do this anyway. I wouldn't do this at
yeah, I was gonna
6
say,
a.m.
maybe 7.
Maybe 7. They're awesome though, and I love getting up early too because like you get to wake up a city, but also you get to watch the sunrise. I call it the sunrise shift.
I call it,
See,
yeah.
watching the sunrise is a special experience, I feel like, that I don't enjoy almost ever besides in college when I stayed up. I don't get up for sunrises. I wish I did.
Well, I usually get up if I'm working at Fox, I get up at 1:48 in the morning.
You're not working at Fox tomorrow, right?
No, what's a bummer? I haven't worked since September 11th, and I'm working on October
Damn.
10th. But I've done a field trip or two in between, but I haven't done weather in forever. I miss weather. But
What a
I was down
somber
in Florida
day
for
to
9
be on
days.
that day.
Fox was great though. I had 3 field trips scheduled, and they essentially cleared my schedule so I could go and cover the hurricane. Like they're really, really good.
Wait,
That's
you were
dope.
down there, like.
Oh, I was in the hurricane. I was in it.
Did you go out and face the storm? Did you get any videos of you trying to face the 150
he
mile an
did.
hour wind?
Oh yeah, follow
I
me on
didn't
Twitter.
see it
I
yet.
wound up.
Oh,
so-
I don't use Twitter enough.
I was in the eye of the Cat 4, and ultimately I wound up. We drove farther west after the eye, penetrated the western eye wall with 110-mile-an-hour winds, and that was wild, especially because there was so much rainfall, like 20 inches of rain, that we got freshwater flooding too, and that started inundating the roadway and surrounding us, and we had to get out of there in a hurry. In doing so, debris took out our front 2 tires and the back right. So now I'm trying to limp this thing along with one good functioning tire and 2 others that are kind of semi-inflated and one that's just like gone. Limp
In
it
the
to
ridgeline?
a river. No. This was a different vehicle. Limp it to a river, and we eventually kind of parked, not a river, but like limp it to a bridge over an inlet in the ocean. And so now I'm like, what should we do? I'm trying to think of options. We have no cell, no whatever. And so I finally spy an apartment building that I know is in a safe place. We wind up going up and over that bridge in the winds, mind you, underneath the apartment building. It's like a raised building. So here's a garage, and then the apartment's on top. We stay there overnight because there's nothing we can do about the tires. Vehicles on either side kind of take the brunt of the wind. The apartment building loses its roof, but that didn't affect me, and that did unfortunately affect people in the building who came down and then sheltered in their cars. We stayed there overnight. I changed one of the tires the next morning with a donut. The other one was fully flat, and the back right wasn't great. We limped that down the road until the rubber on the front left just peels off, and we're driving on the rim. Finally, I can't make it any further. I park at a Winn-Dixie. My buddy sort of hitchhikes west, and he's like, "Well, how will you get back?" I'm like, "Don't worry about me. I'll see you. I'll see you. You'll be fine." And I wind up sending out some messages when I finally get signal back at a Walmart. Go back west again, let him know that I'm good, and here I am. All is well. But I've tried to explain to him and many other people, there's no easy way to go into a Cat 4 hurricane. Like you cannot plan for half these things unless you have a full crew and you're in one location. I didn't have a full crew and I was not in one location, so sometimes things happen. But yeah, it was exactly how I expected.
Which means it was awesome.
Damn.
It was exhausting. It's always exhausting, but I got coverage out. Hopefully, folks, and yeah, I'm still working a piece tonight that we're hoping to have out Thursday. I want to get I'm hoping it'll resonate well. Yeah, it's a lot sometimes.
Jeez. Dude, kid is just fearless,
Kid
man.
just needs to go
Get
to
you the
Australia
weather.
and get fucking drunk with a bunch of Australian people. That's
Those
what
people are criminals.
he needs next.
I'd love to disagree, but honestly, I have to agree there. I'm trying to make sure I don't overdo it alcohol-wise because it does creep up on you. And I'm trying to, cut back on my drinking a little bit, but
You're
too.
only human.
True,
You know what
but
I mean?
in the past, you might see in the book. In the past, I had some issues with it, and I don't want it to become a habit. Like every day having 3 or 4 glasses of wine had become a habit before, and during the pandemic, and even since. Or I'd use it to help me fall asleep at times when I was
I've been
working
there.
weird shifts. And so now I'm like, that's I shouldn't be doing that. Didn't have anything tonight. Didn't have anything last night. I'm trying to do like 3-ish dry nights per week. That's the goal.
Yeah.
That's a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
Because I have a very addictive personality. Like you guys, I'm sure, have seen this. I'm addicted to good things, work and stuff like that. But I know that could very easily become a bad thing.
Which is probably why it's also important to keep yourself busy.
Exactly. If I'm not busy, then bad things happen. And everyone knows this. All my friends know I need to be busy.
Bad things, Matt. I'm addicted.
Idle mind is the devil's workshop.
Yeah. You don't want to see him when he's not busy, guys. Keep
wouldn't
this
like
guy
us.
reporting on the weather, please.
Unless I'm on a cruise, then I'm happy.
Do not
but then
make
you're
him
good
a
to go.
supervillain.
I need to go on another cruise. I really do.
I've never gone on a cruise and I don't have like a desire to.
Come on down. Go. I'm fun. Go on a cruise with me. You can
I'll go.
meet my DC
know what?
friends.
You said $250 whatever, so that caught my eye a couple hours ago. I'm not gonna lie.
What? Let's hit the high seas, dude. I'm down to go on a cruise. $275. Get real.
So
Go
did you get
anywhere.
like where did it leave out of? Florida?
Yeah, Port Canaveral. I had miles though for my buddy and I, so we flew down with miles. And then
Yeah, but you
a couple
could
of my
probably get a
friends.
Spirit flight for like 7 cents. So it's like,
I love Spirit. Spirit.
don't you think we need to have more budget airlines in this country like the Europeans have with all their airlines? They're just flying all
Stop
over the
giving them
place.
credit.
For like, I'll give them credit on that one. They got like Ryanair, Wow, whatever it's called, Zip Zap airline.
Wow isn't in operation anymore.
Yeah,
I
one
only
of them.
know
There's
that.
like a million other them, and they're like you
Zip
can fly
Zap.
from like
Oh,
Spain
EasyJet.
to EasyJet.
EasyJet.
That's one. Whirling, whatever it's called, Vueling. It's like $14 for like flights across Europe. We need that. I'd see more of
Might
this
have to-
country
Yeah,
if it wasn't
I-
so expensive to fly. I might go to Nebraska one day for the screw of it. For now, I'm never going to.
For
fucking
a
Nebraska.
long weekend?
Yeah, like if it was like $15 to go down, pop down Omaha, I'd be interested. But I'm not paying $250 whatever to go to fucking Nebraska.
Aaron, anytime
don't
you want to
need
fly
to
into
go.
Omaha, you let me know. I will personally see to it that we get you out to Omaha, and I will. I've been
Can I
to
get a
pretty
tour?
much every. I've been to everywhere in the state of Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, most of South Dakota, majority of Texas, half Iowa, much of Minnesota. I mean, I'll take you anywhere you want to go in Nebraska.
I do need to see middle of America where the common man lives.
Yeah. That way we can generalize even more as coastal elitists that we
I was gonna say I'd probably just be like,
are.
But
At
even
least we'll
like a
be able to
city like
back up.
Dallas has no interest to me. It's a giant fucking parking lot. That's what that city is. But maybe if it
Yeah.
was cheaper to get there, I'd go.
Yeah, Dallas.
Yeah.
We're calling you
What?
out.
I love Dallas is great too.
Yeah, but it's a
If
parking
you
lot.
wind
That's
up-
what it is.
If you wind up in Kearney, Nebraska, I highly recommend the Whiskey River Grill. They're good. They have great chicken tortilla soup.
See, I would rather go
Dallas-
there.
Oh, Dallas! If you're in Dallas, go to Bugatti's. It's just north of Love Field, on
Yeah.
the northeast side of town. Oh, Bugatti's is so good.
What is it?
Great Italian. It's just Italian food, but everything is so fancy. And it's reasonably priced. Like a good fancy meal is $20, $25
I think
ahead.
if I was going to Middle America though, I'm with you on like the Nebraska and Iowa thing.
It was
because-
nice.
Because
I
like
like
I
Iowa.
said, Dallas seems cool enough, but it also seems like a glorified suburb with a bunch of parking lots. So it's like, you know what? You're pretending
Dallas
you're a real
is-
city.
Texas, because they have so much space, their zoning's
Yeah.
not great. You know,
Yeah.
I
You
love
think
the
of
middle of the
Austin,
desert.
Texas.
I read somewhere Houston or Dallas is like the whole like metroplex is bigger than the state of Connecticut. Like that is absurd.
Probably
Well,
built
Connecticut's
like,
also a fucking hellscape that doesn't need to exist. So
What they say, you're
I'm-
always 3 hours away from Dallas. In Dallas.
I love both Dallas, Fort Worth, and Houston, but I really like rural
I like
West
Houston.
Texas. Have you been to like West Texas before, like middle of nowhere Texas?
I've driven like partly through it, but mostly like middle of nowhere Arizona, which I imagine has a similar feel. With probably
Arizona's
less.
actually pretty different. Like Texas Hill Country, one of my favorite.
I meant like El Paso, like very far.
Oh, I'm talking like hill country.
Yeah, hill
country's
country,
very
like San Antonio.
yeah.
Yeah,
I like the area around like
I like that. I had family out there.
Midland, Odessa. Oh, that's one of my favorite areas. I've had so many good storm chases out there.
I've
One was a day.
Oh, go ahead.
One was a day when I wasn't really like the best one I've ever had, best chase I've ever had, May 17th, 2021. We were forecasting potential supercells with big hail, but low-level winds weren't great for tornado genesis, except near a remnant boundary or the leading edge of cool air exhaust from the prior day's storms that just caused a little bit of a wind shift, but we couldn't see it. We just knew it was somewhere around there. So in the afternoon, I looked for surface observations, thinking where I thought this little wind shift might be, and I found it. And I knew storms would kind of train along that. So storm after storm after storm, we kept hopping to what I thought would be the good storm of the day. And finally, we got to the one that I thought would be the one. It produced this beautiful tornado over open fields, EF3, the best storm ever, and no one was around. It was like, if I could have any day of my life over again, it'd be that one. And 2 hours later, I was at the Olive Garden.
That's the fucking American dream right there.
That is.
I was gonna say though,
Thank God there's Olive Garden.
I've flown over like Texas so many times in my life that I like now I can literally just like look out the window and be like, oh, that's Odessa. Like I was like when I was like I've done it so many times. I've seen that city from air so many goddamn times.
Yep. I mean, there are times I'll drive over. I'm like, there's 35. There's the it's a river in Tulsa, or there's the Chattahoochee River in Atlanta, or there's whatever. Like I love, I guess, reverse plane spotting things from planes on the ground.
I love doing that. I love spotting things from planes.
You guys both would have been useful during World War II, dude.
We would have honestly, because that's like all I think about. I'm like, what city is that? I wonder what body land. It's like, especially if it's not like a huge city, and because if it's a huge city and you know where you're flying, you're like, I wonder what city that is. But it's like a little dotted thing, trying to figure out where you're at. It's fun, and don't cheat.
Storm
Don't use the
chasing
plane map.
come storm chase. You'd love it. You might have to sign the waiver, but I make all my friends sign the waiver. But come on down.
Oh, I'll sign a waiver.
Yeah,
I'll put my life
waivers
on
are
the line for
bullshit,
you, Matt.
Matt. I'll have Brooklyn look over the fucking waiver, and I'm sure that I'll get money out of you if you fuck me up. Your waiver isn't gonna make you safe.
I'll sign the waiver and I won't make a complaint and I'll follow the state.
I'm kidding. I would never.
Rules.
I would never.
Just saying.
Honestly,
That's who I am.
How sad is this? I have just to cover my rear, I have a passenger safety information card in the truck that outlines what to do in the event of a hailstorm, a tornado, a flood, or whatever. It's just like on the airplane, like a passenger safety information card.
Because you're like, you parts to get to the car. You're like, are you sure you want to
You
get in
should
this car?
You should get an old school bus and make it into like a tank, and then like give tours during storms.
I would love to. I've had inquiries before about being a tour guide operator, and I've passed them up just because it's so much responsibility to. I chase differently if it's just me versus if I have a friend. I chase better if it's just me. Usually, I shouldn't say that. No, I do chase better if it's just me because I'm more patient. Whereas if I have a friend, I'm really like, I got to show this person something. Like I'll jump around more. I'll be less patient. I don't allow as much downtime. And sometimes in storm chasing, you have to be patient. If I had 12 people, I feel like I wouldn't make the best meteorological calls. And also, I wouldn't be as, and not to say I take risks, but I wouldn't be as sort of, daring is not the right word either.
You don't want to wipe out a flock.
There's that. I mean, there are things I would do alone that I wouldn't do with other people. Not to say they're dangerous. It's just I don't mitigate risk as much when it's just me because I'm comfortable with the level of risk I'm taking. There's no zero risk storm chasing. If you're out looking for a storm, there's going to be a risk. If you're trying to see a tornado, there will be risk. I take a little more when it's just me. I don't put myself in unsafe situations, but I'm willing to push a little further if it's just me. Get a little closer.
Trust your gut a little bit more instead of like trying to think. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Did you see any big storms last summer when you storm chased, or was
this year was extremely slow? May was a dud. I've been on meteorological withdrawal really until this past week, and this gave me a taste of sort of the raw power of the atmosphere, which is what I live for. I really do live for that.
What would you say is a kind of harder scene to go through? Would you say it's like going down like you saw this week with the hurricane, or would you say like kind of going after a tornado is kind of a more tough scene to like kind of witness?
It fully depends on the human element. As horrible as it sounds, when I'm chasing a storm, I don't really see the aftermath during, unless it hits something big, in which case I'm usually there for the afterwards. This time, I was there for much of the afterwards, and that sort of hit home. Especially, you know what was weird with this time? Like tornadoes, most of the tornadoes I've chased have been in rural areas, causing minimal damage. This hurricane, I always used to go down to Fort Myers to visit my grandparents, my grandfather and his girlfriend, when I was little. And they lived in a mobile home park. And we'd go down to Fort Myers Beach, and I remember walking with them, collecting seashells, and just good memories. And there was a moment of, this is weird, because I remember the only time I've thought about Fort Myers Beach was only thinking about that time I spent with them, and then going back this time, standing there Saturday at Fort Myers Beach, and I look around, and everything's destroyed, and everything's covered in this sandy, muddy grime from the storm surge that carried everything ashore. And to think that, Fort Myers Beach is no more, their mobile home community farther inland is no more. Both of them are now dead. I was like, this is a memory lost in time. Like, this will never be this way again. These people will never be here again, but this place that the memory took place in will never be there again. And that was a weird thing to sort of grapple with. And that's how it is for most people who go through natural disasters. They can rebuild, but that moment in time, unless you've immortalized it through a photograph, that tiny vignette will never be there anyway again.
That's mad poetic. Because it
Try.
doesn't have the same feel ever again. That's kind of like when we went to Old Town Warsaw, and we're like, this is like Disney World. This isn't real, because you knew it wasn't the homes from the 1700s and stuff, because it was gone. And
Yeah.
it's like it doesn't have that same feel ever again. You can never recapture that moment.
Yeah, and other people they'll make memories. There will be new places. There will be new faces. They'll make their own memories there, and it'll be that for someone else. But it's the only time I've ever had a place that I loved, like just a little special place where a little special memory happened that was destroyed. And for me, it was just one little memory, one day. It's weird just knowing nothing from that day will ever be there again. The people, the places, the scenery, everything.
And like putting yourself in the perspective of the people that were there, and that's like imagine us coming back and like Plymouth is gone after a hurricane. Like that would just be like, damn, and it will never be the same. Like it's weird. That must be a very weird, and it is very sad and tragic. As much as we ring on Florida, all right, that's sorry for Fort Myers, but maybe
I interview folks afterwards, and
build.
I never know how to approach it. I mean, I know how to approach it, but I've never received training on how to sort of interview someone in that state. It's something you can't go in there as a journalist. You can't go in there as a meteorologist. You have to go in there as, hi, I'm a person. You're a person. Let's talk. I mean, there are times I'll turn the mic off. There are times I'll sort of leave the cameraman in the dust. There are times I'm like, you and I are just talking. And the cameraman might kind of just zoom in from afar because I don't want it to be intrusive. Because really, it's about capturing someone's raw emotions, but also being sensitive to the fact that they are raw emotions.
Have you seen that video of that woman who sees her son crying and she like tells him to like get on camera? That's why I imagine a lot of people like her son was crying and she wanted to get like a click for it, if that makes sense, like to make it dramatic. Some lady, like I couldn't tell you the name, but I'm saying I imagine that's what some media people would do because they want to sensationalize it.
They're like, look at all these sad people, eat it up.
I found a lot of people who would, when they saw me and my cameraman, they'd say, "What station are you with?" I'm like, "We're not a station. We're an app." And I'd explain the situation, and they were much more willing to talk than if a TV camera was sort of thrust in their face.
Yeah, because then it's like local news, like everybody eat this up live right now, whereas like what you're doing is more documenting the like authentic experience. You know what I mean? You have control of the narrative. Like it's not like you're going out live broadcasting people's like tragedy.
I interviewed a woman in Mardella, Maryland. Joy, gosh, what was her name? Joy something.
You don't have
I don't
to
remember
dox
the last
her.
name.
You don't have to dox her.
Should he dox herself technically?
An interview broke up.
She was awesome, but she She had lost her home that morning in an EF2 tornado, and I happened to be driving back, and this was during the remnants of Isaias on August 4th or 5th of 2020, and her home got hit by an EF2 tornado, completely destroyed. And I showed up, and I walked over. I'm like, and this was for the Washington Post. This wasn't even on camera. And they're like, someone said, "What are you doing here?" Like, no news. I'm like, I'm just a weather guy. Any chance we can talk? And the lady was busy moving boxes, and I said, I'd like to tell your story, but you don't have time for an interview. Why don't I just help you move boxes? Why don't I just help out here, and I'll keep my phone recording audio only? She was like, yeah. And so for like 2 hours, I helped her sort of talk through it. It wasn't even me asking questions. It was just her telling her story. And she wanted answers too. She wanted to know how the tornado formed. Like, why did it hit only this side of her house? Why is the cornfield flattened this way and not this way? And you just have to go in there and be a human. And they don't teach you these things.
That's a wild way to be, especially when your home was just destroyed.
Yep.
Like in a good way. In a good way.
She was awesome, but I think a lot of people, it's almost cathartic to tell your stories. Like that's why people need psychologists these days, or that's why mental health, so many folks go to talk to someone, because talking to someone, talking something out is such a good thing. And if you can be that person, regardless of whether or not there's a camera nearby, if you can be that person that someone will open up to, that's cathartic for them and beneficial for you in helping you share their story.
Damn, that's mad touching, dude.
Okay.
Dude,
what time are you going to bed tonight? It's getting late, guys. I don't want to hold you hostage, Matt, any longer.
No worries. I mean, I'm still going to go for another one after this. I had too many calories today, and then I have to wind up. I'll probably do a voiceover and stuff for tomorrow.
That's
dude, the hardest working man in weather, an absolute stud. Your grandma's favorite weatherman, no doubt. Just getting people all hot and bothered in the morning, no doubt. That's a stud. Go follow him on all of his social media. It's just your name, Matt, right? Like Matthew Cappucci.
Yep.
Matthew Cappucci, Instagram, Twitter. Follow him on the My Radar stuff. I'm gonna follow your TikTok. Dude, shout out to you. Thank you for taking time. Go read his book, dude. We got the book.
Yeah, I'm honored you bought it. I hope. I'm sorry you had to waste your money on me, but I appreciate it.
Dude, waste your money. I'm excited to read it, dude.
Let me know if you find any of the Easter eggs. Family members haven't found any. There are a lot of Easter eggs, and family members are oblivious to the Easter eggs, and other. It's interesting. There are a lot of Easter eggs for a bunch of different things.
I'm excited.
I'm excited to read it. I'll definitely let you know that.
Let me know what you find, and let me know what you learn.
Dude, well, anyways, Pro-Cup, you can cut it. Thanks everybody for listening. 100th episode next week. Woo!
We're getting really fucking